them early.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he didn't come if he's feeling spoiled.
Does that mean you're doing?
We always have.
What about,
Zoom is connected to
what
YouTube.
about the Tuesday meeting? I tried to get on, I couldn't find a way to get on.
But we got technical difficulties.
Oh, okay.
If it happens again, Sandra, just email me, because I always have my email pop up, and we did get it straightened out, and I could have gotten you on.
Yeah, boy, Demetri, he couldn't get on.
Even I can hear that.
But it was streaming on YouTube as well, so
I,
you can go to the YouTube.
I went to the YouTube and I got lots of year-old meetings.
You went on to the wrong link. You have to
Probably-
go on to South Thomaston Store.
Okay,
There's two. There's Owen's old one that I could never access because it went through his email.
so that must be where it
So
was.
we had to start a new one. And it's South Thomaston Clerk, and it's got a little picture of like a map.
So if I just put South Thomaston Clerk in my search engine,
That should bring it up.
give it a, if I get, I'll give it a try.
Okay,
And if I
give me a
get it
call.
wrong, I'll call you.
Okay.
Terry, did anyone say they weren't gonna be able to make it tonight?
Not to me.
Okay.
Well, it's almost 6, yeah.
Yeah. Need one more?
So did this new,
No, you kicked it, do you? 'Cause
We're
we-
seven,
Seven.
no, we got
Oh,
four.
you got 4.
Okay. so
You
we
got, now
a-
you got 5. You got-
Okay.
So you,
You're
doesn't
good.
matter what it is now, you
We're
got.
fine. We're fine.
did this new
You
company
know,
that contract, did they contract the town to put all this new cable in, or are they just doing it and signing people up?
They're just doing it. They haven't started signing people up yet. That's what.
Solid.
Hi, Beth. Hi, how are
Oh.
you? Good?
But they're working
Oh,
crazy.
They're working on weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're spending a lot of money. I can't imagine what one of those reels of cable costs.
I know.
But is it for
Fiber.
fiber optics? Is that what they're doing?
So unless you're off of 131, by the end of the year, you'll be able to get fiber optics direct to your house.
Is this part of what the state has been promoting and trying to do, or are they totally?
Consolidated Communications, they were funded
Yeah.
by, they have a state grant, and then they sold a piece of the, Charter sold a piece of their company, so they had a big cash infusion, which they're investing in CapEx.
I mean, the price will go down?
$75 for 1 gig up and down the first year, and then it goes up to 95.
No, doesn't change much.
What?
Doesn't seem to be changing that.
Well, the size of the hose is getting a lot bigger.
Yeah.
What do we get through Spectrum?
100,
I mean,
100.
I don't know what gig is, are we getting anywhere near that?
No,
Faster.
Well, we're getting near that down, but not up, right?
no, we get 100 meg down.
But
And-
very
and-
little up.
And less than 20 up. And that's if you buy the expensive one.
So this is significantly more.
Upload
Oh,
stuff.
10
Oh,
times
right.
up and 10 times more up and 100 times more down.
Like
I
people
know,
know,
it's,
it's trying to load 10 big files to text.
Oh, goodbye
Europe,
Spectrum.
takes all night
I
long.
think,
And you won't be paying money to Spectrum, which is.
Unless you keep cable.
Unless you got your phone and TV with.
If you want to see Nestle,
I'm so determined to find a way to get rid of the TV.
Well,
Just
if
need
you
channel
put,
settings.
More than that.
if you put consolidated fiber in,
So it'll be
you automatically
consolidated
get
instead
paid
of
for
that
IP.
we'll be offering.
well, Spectrum.
So the only thing is you don't have a choice.
There'll be competition.
So Walter, you have conduit all the way down to your house after full cable?
I do.
So, yeah. We're,
You, I imagine you have to pay for that though. No?
That's not what they told me.
Community.
Nice.
What they said is if you already have an existing line,
Well, we didn't do
non-cable,
Mhm.
then the fiber is gonna follow that same route, and the installations at no cost.
Basically, I
Oh.
mean, they've had satellite stuff.
Oh.
But
I can't wait. I stop to talk to them every day. Right now, they're putting the terminals in to connect to the premise.
Yeah,
So.
your new best friends?
My new best friends.
Just don't
well,
slow
we just
down.
lost somebody.
They want to get water.
Oh, You wanna wait till she comes back, or it
Yeah.
won't be long?
So it doesn't stop you from bringing yours to.
Well, that's true. Okay, I'll call the Board of Selectmen to order at, 6 PM, or 6:03 PM. You wanna call the budget committee to order, and, or do you want me to, how do you wanna handle this?
Well, I thought we would, you just do the introduction and then we switch over and then we gotta do our election.
Okay, but you don't,
We
well, you have a
we
chair.
have to do it.
Moira has always been the previous year's chair was the chair.
And then we
you
gotta
had
do
the
the
election. That's the way it used to work.
We get a secretary.
Okay, well, are there any adjustments to the select board's agenda? None? Is there any public comment for items not on the agenda? Hearing none,
Okay,
so I guess we'll turn it over to you. to
all right.
Budget committee.
We have a budget committee, we have everybody but one person here, and so we have a quorum. First item is that we need to elect a budget committee chair. So are there any nominations?
I nominate Moira.
Is,
Second?
is there a second? Second. Okay, Linda's got a second. Are there any other comments? Anyone else would like to step up to the plate? Okay, hearing and seeing no hands. All in favor of Moira Pack being the chair again? And I abstain. Okay, so that's 5-1. We need a secretary, very important job. I move Sandra. I think she did good. Well, Kate did it last year.
Yeah,
Kate did it, but did Sandra do it once?
I did.
She did it one meeting, one meeting.
Well.
So, we have, this is a wonderful thing. We have a nomination for Sandra. Is there a second? Any second? Linda, second? Is there any other nominations for?
I'll just make the point. Kate did a wonderful
I-
wonderful job last year.
Yes, I did too.
And I don't know what, how Sandra did it before, so.
Because I would nominate Kate, because she did it and already had the role of it.
Well, I would,
So there, is there a second for Kate? We can have this is a first, this is wonderful. We'll have a vote for it.
I would just like to ask, Kate, what you feel about doing it again. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I would be happy to do it.
And then next year you can have it.
Okay, and I'll back you up.
Thank you.
And then, because you were great.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
All right.
Well, no, I'm still learning the drill.
Okay. All right, so
Okay.
Right.
Do we have a second?
we have a second. Linda did the second for Kate.
Well,
Oh, Bev, sorry. Okay,
I guess I made that motion then, huh?
yes. So
Wait a minute.
we have actually two candidates for secretary, which is, must be a first in my lifetime here. And so I'm just gonna ask, do you want to withdraw? Or does Kate want
I
to withdraw?
would like to withdraw.
Okay, so we had one candidate withdraw, so all in favor of Kate being secretary? All against or abstain? All the, yes, all okay. So 5-1. Thank you, Kate.
Can I make a comment?
Who's the
Laura?
one?
I was so gratified last year.
Camila
with,
Lucas is the one that's absent?
So because she's absent, she gets a vote?
No, I abstained on mine,
Oh, okay.
5-1,
I abstained on mine.
and
So
that's
the-
5-1,
the
because we only
one.
have 6. Sorry.
I was so gratified with Kate having that role last year and succeeding Gail, because the two of them always spelled my name correctly as opposed to Sonia Sleeper, who never did.
She only did it for one part of one meeting, I think. All right, so we have our, the chair and the secretary, and so,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I need your name.
Bob Davis.
Okay, you were here last year, okay.
He's-
I,
He's got a different look.
recognize people.
Oh, I think it is.
Yes, okay, and your Sandra, your Linda, and your Beverly.
With Bill's absent.
Camille's absent,
And we
but
have,
she's still on the committee.
yes, we haven't seen her for a while.
Thank you.
Last time we were on Zoom, we had labels under us.
So I'm gonna hand it back to you, John. I do have one question, if you could give us what pay raises were, kind of a scenario of what you did for guidance for the budget, because we didn't see a form that's a write-up or anything.
Yeah, the board voted 3 or 4 meetings ago to authorize a COLA across the board of, geez, I don't remember what it was,
5.9,
5.9.
So the same as social security and VA.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. And I believe that's baked into all of the salary and wage lines with maybe one or two exceptions here and there. Here's Camille. Right there.
Oh.
Right.
Yep, that's Camille. Hello.
No, that's,
Oh, okay. On Zoom, okay. Was there any other? We didn't get a sheet with LD one either. In the booklet. Where do we stand with that?
It's
Did I didn't. see
I
it.
didn't give them the LV1 sheet because I hadn't finished it.
Oh,
I thought it was something I could get to them after you guys reviewed it.
so is it the 657, 713?
The second one.
I thought that went to everything. Okay.
I didn't get it out to the board because the 657, 671 is last year. The 657, 713 is what I came up with this year. I will send that out now. so.
and that just seems low.
Yeah,
I agree. That's why I wanted you guys to have it look at it.
Okay.
It's the difference between the revenue sharing. This year, projected revenue sharing is 230 something.
and it was, what, 136 last year?
Well, I figured it 280s and I went with the highest one. I figured it, the first I figured it on the fiscal year January 1, 21 to December 31, 21. And then the second time I figured it on July 1st, 21 to June 22, but we don't have 3 months, so I averaged the months and I just used that number for the last 3, and it was a little higher, but it's still, you know, that 236,000 just kind of being projected. We have to take that away from our total.
So in other words, you're saying basically it gets complicated because of the 18-month transition year.
Yes,
But the bottom line is we're anticipating more revenue sharing because of action at the state.
yes,
So our tax levy limit at the local level drops because of that to some degree. But it's not clear exactly what it is because we're complicated by the 18 months. Okay.
But you did have the numbers in the sheet you gave them.
yes.
It's embedded. If you look at your the
Summary
detail, yeah, funding 21 actual and anticipated.
Where are we going?
Yeah, we're
On the funding sheet, I don't know if I get that. in
Right at
the-
the end of it.
It's called summary, if you're looking at your Excel.
But again,
Sheet headings, it's
they
summary.
don't have that sheet.
We
So-
don't
Oh, they don't
have
have
that.
so Karen, which sheets do they not have?
The funding and the summary,
Okay.
because I wanted you guys to look at
Okay.
it before we gave it out.
Okay,
to
okay,
them.
so they don't have the last two sheets.
Right. And if you guys want to look at it and think it's okay, I'll send it to them this weekend.
Well, do we, I don't know how you want to proceed. Do we want to proceed with the agenda and go to the departments, or do you want to move into this discussion?
Well, I think what they're looking for is a general view from the board on the budget,
Yes,
right?
yes, and could we get
copies of those sheets tonight or not? Or-
Yeah,
or
I think
big-
you certainly can get copies of them. With the caution that the board has not sort of discussed them, I guess. And I didn't realize we were gonna do an overview. I'm not prepared to do that if you are.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Because we normally have one, just so we know the consensus of what you gave us as the guidelines to the department heads, what your focus is, so we're on the same page.
So if, Jeff, if you would,
yeah,
Terry, if you wanna go make copies of those sheets, or I can,
I can do it.
okay. And Jeff, if you'd like to do, or Walter, and over you, go ahead. I'm not prepared to do that. I didn't realize we were gonna do that, so.
yeah. I'll start off by saying it's an ugly budget, although when we looked at it originally, I thought it was going to be a pretty good budget because I was not expecting the LD1 to be, I expected it to be significantly higher. Right now,
What is LD1?
and that is the maximum amount we can levy. We can levy up to that amount
In local property.
in local property taxes. And so it's a very significant calculation.
It's a formula.
It's a formula, right, that says, all things given, if you're underneath this amount, it's a reasonable amount to be charging to taxpayers. But the bottom line is what we have right now, it looks like we're 200,000 over the LD1. And that's without using any reserve and without using any surplus. So
Can I interject and ask
Sure.
what the reserves are currently? Have you gotten that number?
I think that was in your packet, wasn't it? Was that in
Your packet.
Oh, so that's another one that they
I
want.
wouldn't be asking these questions if
I
they
didn't
were.
think these questions would come up until next week.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And
I
the
thought
board
they
would
were
be
coming
able
up.
to look at it, and I would be able to pass
I
them all
assumed
up
they
to
got it.
them.
I knew these questions would come up today.
Okay.
Yes.
I assumed we were talking about these when we got to the funding side.
No, they'll talk about it all the way through.
Okay. But can I just interject one thing on LD1 though? You said it's the maximum amount. That's true, but there are mechanisms to override that amount. So it's
That's right.
not necessarily maximum. Just
Yeah.
a complication.
So if you remember last year, we had and we have the article on every single year, will the town vote to exceed the LD1 limits? And last year is the first year I can remember for many, many, many years that we recommended exceeding it. But the reason we were exceeding it is because we were doing 18 months and the limit was still based on 12 months. So it made sense for us to exceed it last year. This year, we're back to a 12-month. So it does not make sense for us to exceed it without some pretty good reasons. And an argument can be made that there are some exceptions. There are some things in this budget that we have ignored for the last several years that should be done at some point.
Is there a penalty if you exceed it?
No, there's not a penalty, except that the town has to vote to override.
Okay.
It has to be a separate vote. They vote for the budget, and then at the end of the vote for the budget, then they vote to either vote not to override it because you stayed under it, or they vote to override it. And it is also possible for us to come in with a budget that is below the LD1 limit. And then at town meeting, somebody could add something into it or increase one of the budget lines that puts us over. That's why that question has to be on the ballot on the warrant every single year. So in this budget, there last several years, the COLAs have been small. And this year, it's definitely not small. So inflation is hitting everything, not just the cost of the individuals, their pay, but it's also hitting the cost of doing things. So construction costs, paving costs, cost of electricity. So all of those are baked into this budget right now. And so it's going to definitely be a higher budget. And we have emphasized, there are two things that we did in this budget that is pushing us higher. One is we are changing some of the stipends for some of the town employees, specifically EMA. We're adding an EMA director. We're adding a stipend for the health officer. The health officer in the past has not been paid, and we have not actually had a health officer. And that's one of the reasons we think that we haven't had a health officer is because of that. So other people have had to do that with you. So that is gonna, you'll see that as an increase. The other thing that we emphasized in this one is trying to fix some of the paving that's going on because of the opportunity we have right now. We're doing the Island Road. And so there are some benefits of using the same contractor to do other paving that will end up saving us some money in the long run. And there's also some really bad roads right now that need some attention. So, and plus we've got a new road commissioner who is just pushing for us to do more paving.
Well,
I saw him putting that sign today.
They're temporary, uncompensated road commissioner. Who's doing it for free?
So, so again, it is an ugly budget. I think there is room to do some scalpel work on it. But it being high was intentional in some areas on our part. So it's up to you to either agree or disagree. The other part of this is since we're coming out of an 18-month, it's hard to compare how it is over last year. You almost have to go to the year before or do a calculation on last year, dividing it by 18 and multiply it by 12 to come up with comparisons on how we are. So that's going to be a little more difficult than it normally is. And it is also going to cause, although eventually it will become easier, but in like doing the LD1 calculation, that's based on last year's 12 months or 18 months, and how do we do those calculations? So that's going to be very interesting to see how that flows out. But it's also, we don't know what the end of the year is yet. And in years past, we did. So we knew what the surplus was, how much we spent last year, how much we didn't spend, how much money we got in, and what the actual revenues were. So we had a good idea what our surplus was from the previous year. We're doing a budget starting in July for the one that ends in June, which is a good thing. We're getting ahead of it, but it means we don't have reality for last year like we normally do. So that's going to be another interesting part of it. I liked in the past that we were able to say, this is what the surplus is going to be, and this is how much we're going to carve out of it. You can't do that this year. You won't know until the end of June what the actual surplus is.
Really, end of July.
Yeah, you won't know until the end of July.
Walter, you want
Just
to add?
a couple things. We won't have an audit report. We usually have an audit report, which goes in the town report. We're not going to have an audit. We're not going to have an audit until July, so we're not going to have a report until August. And yes, I think we all knew this was going to be a higher than usual budget, but I don't think any of us can see that we're going to be 203,479 over the limit.
Yeah. I did not anticipate that until I saw this the other day.
Roughly the entire budget.
Well, the entire budget is about 1.2.
So it's 1/6, it's 18%.
Wow. Well, I'll say a couple of things. I think Jeff's right. A lot of what's driving this increase is inflationary pressures from the outside. I mean, particularly in solid waste. You're gonna see that. The other thing is, we are finding we just cannot fill positions and keep people in them. We are just out of whack with the wage rates that are being paid, whether it's the town administrator or the CEO or almost any of it. Amy talks about in the ambulance, we're way below St. George and Thomas. We're pretty fortunate to do so. I mean, we're finding that across the board. And it's not just us as a municipality. I think the labor market's tight, period.
It's everywhere.
Right, so you gotta compete. And I think that that's just a reality that that's hit us in the face. I think, you're gonna see with Jerry leaving in particular as road commissioner, I mean, he did things, for example, out back that was way below market. I mean, he just basically had an old backhoe out there and he sent us a bill when he half figured it out. And, now we're getting billed at a market price. And so those are just realities that, across the board, I think the age of sort of, for lack of a better word, volunteerism, because I like the community and I'm willing to go around and do stuff at either no cost or half price, they're gone or going quickly. So, and that's a reality we're facing. So I am not convinced yet that we are that short on the LD1. I think I was going to try to delve into that somewhat this weekend. I think it depends on the methodology you use and the estimate that we use on what the revenue sharing is going to be. And with the 18-month, I think we need to do some more analytical work on that.
Yeah, I agree on that.
And so I'm not convinced that we're there. And I also, you mentioned that's absent using any surplus or any reserves. So assuming we're going to use some amount of that, whether it's $1 or 150,000 or 200,000, that's going to lower that. So, and that's a big assumption. So
100,000, 200,000.
the point is, I think there will be some reduction of that from use of either reserves or surplus. But anyway, so having said that,
And the last thing I'll throw out is that this may very well be the year that we reset our LD1. So it may be vote to override and reset. And I don't know that yet, but
When was the last time you did that?
years it's been. I remember doing it one time. Yes, we did it, but it was right at the beginning of doing LD1s. And I don't remember what the reasoning was. There was a logical reason for doing it, but typically we don't. But we may be at the place where we need to do that. But I'd rather go through this process before I make any kind of decision on that.
Sorry for the delay. It wasn't where I expected we were going tonight.
yeah,
Or do you have to call a meeting? Always? Does it?
We haven't started the meeting.
That's right. Okay. I'm just making sure we have. Yeah.
We did our elections and
Because
then
I'm
we went,
taking notes, but I don't have to. Okay.
well, because we're going back and forth, but we haven't called the meeting for budget. We just did elections and went back and asked for a survey, a summary. And that's where we are still right now.
well, Walter, anything else you want to add or?
Not right now.
Okay.
When we get to the discussion of changing LD1, I'll have a lot to say.
So we should just write first draft on these pages, since they're gonna still be massaged.
I think the budget information is pretty much, we've gone through the budget.
I think she's talking.
I'm talking about the
Oh, okay, yeah,
the three sheets that we didn't get.
yes.
We didn't vote on that.
Vote on what?
We didn't vote on our column as being a preliminary submittal.
Well, I thought we sort of came to consensus on most of them the other night, but maybe, but you're right, we didn't technically vote on it, but.
as far as I'm concerned, the cold water of reality that's been poured by looking at the totality has changed my attitude and feelings about some things.
So I think that was a short way of saying that we are open to critical discussion of line items. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because to tell you the truth, there were some things that we decided to put in here that we put in there saying this is more to get the discussion going around this particular item. So there is some.
We're going to call the budget committee 6:28. And does anyone have any questions for Jeff or Walter or John from the summer? Before we move on. Anybody? Appreciate that. So is Brian there on Zoom?
Yes.
All righty. So fire department. It's on page 16. With the hard copy. Brian, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll let you take it over.
All right, just bear with me. I am not 100%. I probably shouldn't even be doing this right now, but I didn't want to mess up your guys' schedule. So I'm gonna fight through this. So just a recap of last year, the 2021, 2022, or 2021 session, we did 147 fire incidents, ranging from anything from a structure fire in our town to accidents, mutual aid to other towns in our general area. And we also conducted at least 37 trainings. The calls from 20 to 21 went down a little bit for the fact that Amy and I discussed and we stopped doing the OIC, which is officer in charge on every single ambulance call. So I was not on call for, excuse me. I was on call 24/7 pretty much during COVID when it was at its height. I'm now not. I'm back to doing what I normally do. So I did receive a grant from last year's budget through FEMA for the exhaust system. That's all installed and in place at this time. So we were awarded that. That was a $60,000 investment into the town. I did my yearly applications of grants through Maine Municipal for air pack cylinders. I applied for a grant through Stephen King Foundation for $10,000 towards forestry equipment, which we were awarded. I also applied for a grant through the Leary Foundation for a new thermal imaging camera, which we've been approved, but we're just still waiting for it to arrive. We are still a department of 18 strong. Anywhere from a 16-year-old all the way up is available and allowed to join the department as long as you pass the background check. Any questions so far? Perfect. Maura, do you want me to go line by line?
I'd probably, because you're not feeling well, go through just the total, and then we'll stop and see if anyone has any questions concerning that.
Thank
That
you.
work for-
All right, so salaries, stipends, that's 17,373. That's up because of the 5.9% increase that the board gave to the town. The wages is at for January, if I'm reading this right, and Terry's gonna have to help me, but January 1st to December 31st, the wages was roughly $27,000. For next year's budget, or the one we're going into, for the 12-month period of July to June, will be $30,067. Benefits is $36.29. Contracted services, there's nothing too big in here. Health Connections is it's $32,432 for the whole thing for contract services. As some of you that have been on the budget committee for a while, at least while I've been chief for the last 16 years, my vehicle maintenance and pump test, so that'd be line 499 and 502. I've put that back to $10,000 because this past year we ran into major significant maintenance issues on one truck mainly, which I'll discuss in a little bit. So as you can see, if you direct back over to the 21 line, you'll see how much we actually spent in vehicle maintenance, which majority of it was on one truck. Sorry. Fuel, utilities, and phone. It's 5,000. I bumped it up a little bit from what we actually did last year. I actually brought it down from what I predicted from the year before, but due to the ongoing diesel increases of price, I'm not sure where we're gonna be. We do get a discount from what everyone sees on the street, but it does fluctuate just like the street does too for price. Dues, fees, travel, it's 26.75. It's actually down a little bit from last year prediction. Insurance, I have no control on that one. That's Terry's line. Supplies is 3,400. That's not much different. I don't know. Yeah. So, equipment is 48,359. The big things that are in here is line 545. It says AFG fire apparatus. That's FEMA. I've applied for a fire truck or tank truck through the FEMA grant process. So far, I haven't been told no, so we're still in the running. Last time I heard, I won't know if we're gonna get the grant or not till at least the earliest of June. And then the latest is whenever they run out of money. But it could happen a little bit sooner. I might know next month. I might know in May, but as we all know, the federal government changes their mind faster than anyone else. So we just gotta sit and wait. Then if you go to all right, sorry, line 542, AFG SCBA, 1,988. That's also a FEMA grant that I've applied for. These two numbers for the SCBA and the apparatus, that's the percentage that we have to pay if awarded the grants. The SCBA is to actually finish off the air packs in the station that I've been trying for the last couple of years to finish. So hoping we can get that grant. And like I said, same criteria for the apparatus. It's waiting around to see if they say yay or nay and stuff like that. So I do know we've made it through the I think third step by now. And there's I don't remember how many steps total are there. But the overall predicted budget for fiscal year 23 is 157,465. Any questions? And I'm sorry, that was very short and sweet, and I can go into more detail if everybody would like me to.
Bob, go ahead.
Brian, what percentage of the grants you're seeking is the town responsible for?
Can you try that again? My hearing's not that great tonight either, so I apologize.
The two grants that you're seeking, what percent is the town responsible for? Those two numbers you have plugged in, what percent of that is the total cost of the equipment?
The town only has to pay 5% of the overall grant. The actual overall grant for the apparatus is I've asked for $600,000, which right now will not even buy a fire truck at this time because the price increases have gone up. So both the FEMA grants, we have to, because of our population, we only have to pay 5% of the overall cost.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Okay, Brian,
Yes.
can you
Missed over on hand tools, because you had 5,000 there. And you also didn't talk about the air compressor with 5,000. Can you explain a little bit about that?
The hand tools is, it's time to start looking at replacing some of the hand tools that have been in service longer than I've been on the department, which is well over 30 years. The air compressor, Terry, is that what I think it is from the inspection we got?
I don't know, I'm lost.
All right, well, I am too, because I didn't know that was even there, but the state or someone came in and did an inspection on the station of all our like the cascade system, the air tanks that put air to the air compressor to the fire trucks. The air compressor to the fire trucks did pass, but was strongly encouraged to be replaced because it was built in 1973. It still passed its inspection, but they suggested that we replace it. So that would be, I guess that's what that is, because other than that, I have no idea whether there's an air compressor inside my budget.
And then the other question is with the PPE on line 541, we went to 4,000. Was it being paid for somewhere else? Is that why it's in the budget now?
No, I think back when Owen was in the seat of Terry's, the 540 and 541 they're the same thing. So I don't know. It's why it's where it's at. So turnout gear and PPE are the same thing. And I tried explaining that to him a couple of years ago, but it didn't change.
Okay.
So those line items are gonna have to be together. Are they the same?
He's calling PPE and turnout gear the same thing, so that's up to Terry where she wants to put it.
I think that
That
sounds sense, but I
makes
sure
more
I put it
sense,
with Brian's budget.
but that's your,
No, it's not my budget, it's Brian's budget.
no, I understand, but it's a decision on that part.
No matter what he says.
What other, anyone have other questions?
I'm just curious what the hand tools actually work with.
You're gonna have to speak up. Go ahead.
Hand tools, what is, you said that they have been in, I don't know what the hand tools actually are.
Hand tools, an axe, a pike pole, an ice pick, Halligan, the tools that we have to do our job, basically.
Any other questions concerning the fire department budget currently? So normally we vote preliminarily on a budget item because they get changed at the end when we start drilling down a little bit more. And so do I have a motion?
I move that can we do just
Hold on a second, you're not listening. Bob had his hand up and I called on him. Hold on.
I make a motion to approve the budget as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So Bob made the motion for approving the total fire department budget preliminarily at 157,465. Sandra seconded. Is there discussion? I think it's probably high budget with an increase of 35%, basically. So it's kind of hard to look at when I looked at the total line. So that's why I'm.
But we truly don't know if we don't get the grant that takes that 28,005 right out of it, correct? I mean, the town, if they don't get a grant for that truck, then the town will not be spending that money.
Correct.
It won't take it out of the budget necessarily.
It'll go in.
No,
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to spend it.
We probably
we
would
would,
spend it.
we're not gonna spend it, so it'll go into reserve.
Yeah, and
into
So they
surplus.
go for close in the surplus,
Yes.
but it gets more complicated.
That's too simple.
So remember I said that we put some things in to generate discussion, and this is one of them. So if you caught what he said, that's 5% of a new truck. So it's a $600,000 expense that we're gonna have to somehow finance
So it
over the
sounds like
next.
it's more than 600,000.
Yes, it almost for sure will be. But if you think through the process and if we get approved the grant, then we're probably not gonna get the vehicle for 2 years. 2-ish years.
Can't hear you.
Yes,
Can't-
yeah.
And we won't owe this money for at least into next year. Right? And there's gonna be a whole lot more to go along with the purchase, because it's almost for sure, even with the grant, it's probably gonna be a little bit more than what the grant is gonna entail. Our intention is in this year's warrant, we will have a warrant item to approve replacing the fire truck or 2. And so this is the first place that you see an indication of that replacement schedule, which should have been this year, but is probably not going to be until next year or the year after. And if you want any reasons why we need to do it sooner rather than later, go back and look at those expenses that he mentioned on what we have spent in the last 12 months for pumps, for pump repair and fire truck repair, and they have skyrocketed. And so it just points out that it's time to be replacing the trucks. So the reality is, and in my mind, when we get down to the end of we need to carve out 28,000. This could easily be put into next year's budget, even if we get the grant, because we have to show process. We have this money,
That was my question.
but we do have money in the reserve that can show them that we have the money,
The rules of the grant require you to already have the money there.
or be committed to. So if you don't have reserves for it, then we would have to have this on the town meeting. Maybe we probably have to have a special town meeting to make application without that matching funds. But we don't have to pay it until it comes time to pay the pipe.
Walter?
So why can't we vote to allocate $28,571 worth of surplus to this purpose effective on June 30th?
We could.
And that takes this out of the budget. It puts us on the hook. We have a vote that we can show to the grantors. This is funded. It's funded on June 30th, which is the last day we can do that. What kind of phone is it?
Noisy one.
I don't even think we need to do that. Because we have the money in our reserves. We've got money for our.
When it comes back to us, I'll make my next comment.
Okay.
Go ahead, I think this is over, I don't know what it is, but.
Other discussion concerning the budget for the fire department?
Actually, I hate to complicate this, but if you don't mind.
Go ahead, John.
All of a sudden, it just dawned on me, listening to you, that we don't need this in this budget.
No, remember
So
when we left it in there?
only we wanted to generate discussion, but
Correct.
our thought was that we would end up taking.
Right. If you think
Yes.
28,000 is expensive, where do we come to you with the 850,000 for the 2 trucks?
Well, that's gonna be that was the
Right.
comment I was gonna make, is that we do mutual aid for fire departments. Actually, everybody comes from all the different towns. How many trucks do we really need to have? Because we have, like the fire in Belfast last week, you had all the surrounding towns come, they sent one vehicle. And so do we really need all these vehicles?
We are obligated by the state and the category that we are in, that you pay for your household insurance to have the vehicles that we have. There's only one of them that could possibly not be there, but it's not this one. The one that's coming due is the primary, and that is the one that needs to be replaced.
And that's the one that's costing repair.
Among it, yeah, another one's coming. Well, we got two that are.
Because we spent a survey years ago on what we really needed, and we haven't done anything with it, so I'm just asking the question again.
I don't know that.
That was the person in Camden, talking about what was necessary.
Yeah, that actually has gone nowhere, because what it requires is all the towns to come together and all the fire departments to come together and figure out how they're gonna do regional. But what Brian, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, what he's maintaining right now is what we are obligated to maintain. Even though we have mutual aid, there are certain items that we are required to have. We don't have to have a ladder truck, but we do have to have a first in pumper truck, boost truck. So,
But
The work, we got a good discussion on this, but I'm not really clear. You're saying that we don't have to have it in this budget.
Correct.
So, but we can still qualify for the grant because we have it in surplus.
surplus, or
No.
we have a
In
reserve.
reserve,
in reserve.
because we have it in reserve.
Yeah, we have a building, we've been
So
building
I'm
that.
kind of looking, you know, yeah, I mean.
Well,
so-
it's an amendment to the
So-
motion.
I don't,
So I'll make, we're gonna discuss it. I'll make a motion to amend my motion to take out the $28,571 for the truck.
for line 545.
Yeah, it's line 545.
So that would make the new preliminary fire department budget number 128,894. Is there a second on the amendment to the first motion to change the fire department and take away the 28,571 for the apparatus? Is there a second? Okay, we have a signer. Okay, further discussion on the amendment to the first motion that changes the total to 128,894 for the fire department. It's a good start, I think.
Brian has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian? I'm not both looking up.
Well, as the fire chief, I'd actually like to respond to all the conversations that you guys were having that Jeff answered. More with regards to your scenario of the whole Belfast incident. You can't, and please don't take any disrespect to this. You can't look at it that way. That's a major incident, and like Jeff said, not every town has a ladder truck. Not every town has a tank truck. The other thing is, it's been said for years and years, oh, we have mutual aid. Oh, we have mutual aid. We can't rely on mutual aid. I have gone to another town because they couldn't even get a crew. So how's that town supposed to come to my town on the mutual aid? I have discussed in depth with the board a little bit on regards to the apparatus that we have. I was trying, in one sense, instead of 2 trucks this year, tried to replace 3. One of the third trucks that's still here is high on maintenance on a yearly basis, just because the way it was built by the previous fire chief. But due to finances and the way the cost of fire trucks are skyrocketing, along with the availability of getting a fire truck, are pretty much slim to none. So the truck that we're replacing is the next one that was on the rotation, along with, just so everyone's aware, it's a 2-truck replacement this year. One's the tank truck and one's the utility. It's the way the rotation was set up over 10 years ago. So that's a discussion. I'm pretty sure it wasn't on my list, so I would assume that's on another night. And I think I hit everything, but I'm not positive. But I'm not, Maura, I'm not against dropping down on the apparatus, but there's consequences with that, that as soon as I drop a truck and we rely on mutual aid that doesn't show up and someone's house burns flat, who's liable? The fire chief, because I reduced our apparatus. I'm not against it, and as the 3 board selectmen know, I'm open for any discussion because we need to look to the future. I am a part of the county chiefs, and I am one of the few chiefs that's pushing for merging departments together, eliminating apparatus, and also all aspects. But if I came to you tonight, Maura, with replacing 3 fire trucks, we'd be looking at $2 million, not 850. And I'm not prepared to have that discussion with anyone on the budget committee, because that is a ridiculous request. So, thank you.
Can I ask how your discussion is going with having a, what did you say, a central group of, and redistricting with other
Well,
fire?
It's going about as good as you could expect. Trying to get 17 towns in the county of Knox to sit down and have this discussion, let alone 17 fire chiefs show up to one meeting and then discuss it and this and that. We only meet once a quarter. Every quarter we meet. We don't meet on a routine basis. Every 3 months we might have a meeting, and not everybody shows up. Not everybody wants to listen to it, and nobody wants to deal with change. I'm trying to make this push to try and better us in South Thomaston, along with the other area departments and towns neighboring us, because we're all hurting. Like I said, I have 18 people. An ideal fire department needs 40 to 50. And that's why you see all the red fire trucks showing up in our town, like the last fire we had on Elm Street, is because I don't have enough people. And it was the middle of the day. We actually did pretty good for our department. I had 10 out of 18, but every department is hurting for manpower, including Rockland. Yes, they're full-time, but they also have volunteers, but everybody's hurting. And if we, the chiefs, don't stop pushing to make this change, we're not getting any farther with this issue. And I'm trying my best without overstepping my position as one of the chiefs to try and get this to work. Do I see it happening in the lifespan of me being on the fire department? Honestly, no, I don't.
That's sad here. Because it would be nice to know that down the road that could happen. Is there,
Could I ask
John?
Brian?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that, well, 2 things. I think if we should be pointing out here that when we're talking about replacing 2 fire trucks, we're talking about, one is a major piece of apparatus that is in the ballpark of what these days? Just roughly.
Roughly, last numbers, I just had a drawing come in for one on the truck, and it was $800,000.
And we're also talking about a second truck that is significantly different. It's a utility
Correct.
truck that is in the neighborhood of,
150 to 200 grand.
we're not talking, I just want to make sure people understand, we're not talking 2 major pieces of fire apparatus. We're talking, it is 2 trucks, but, so, and the other thing is, I just want to make sure, I guess I was a little fuzzy the other night, of why the reason we put this in, Jeff reminds me that it was to evoke some discussion. I guess I missed that a little bit. I just want to make sure you're 100% comfortable with that, and the fact that you agree that the fact that we have the money in the reserves can serve as our commitment for this grant. I don't want to jeopardize this grant opportunity in any way. And
No.
I want to hear you say that you agree with that.
I agree. Well, as everyone knows, it's been doing the budget process for a while. If I don't put this number in my budget, it's not going to get discussed. And that's the whole reason. What you guys choose where to pull it from, that's up to you. But we have the money in the reserve account that will cover the cost of the grant truck if we get the grant truck. And just so the budget committee knows, when we go to town meeting, this grant truck is slim pickings that we're gonna actually get it. It's the hardest grant to get.
I'm taking that as a yes.
Well, I'm hoping for a yes. So we're good with the funds. Where you do what you're doing. Sorry.
Yes, Walter?
So, we're making an assumption here that, in an area that we don't really know what the facts are, and I think that's really dangerous. When we did the Northern Borders grant, we said, we have the money in the paving reserve, and they said, no, we don't accept that, and we had to take it out of the reserve and put it in a special dedicated account to that purpose in order for them to sign up for the grant. Why would this be different? And so I think it may be different. Let's find out if it's really different.
Well,
And then
here's
take
the,
the
but
appropriate
here's the
action.
proof. He's already submitted for the grant. The application is in. He's just waiting to find out if he's got it. So he's already got everything in he needs for the grant.
And have they told you what proof you have to put up for the 28,571?
It's a part of the grant. I have to submit fiscal finances as well.
And what did you tell
I told them exactly what's in our reserve account, the information that Terry gave us.
Okay, all right.
That's the answer.
Answers
That's the answer I want to hear.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. If there are other questions concerning the motion that's been amended to reduce fire department to 128,94, is there further discussion? If not, do I hear a motion?
We made the motion.
He made the motion, the amendment of the motion, and we went and already discussed, and now I need to, sorry, I need a vote. Sorry. So I need a vote. The motion is the fire department total has been reduced to 128,894. All in favor? Aye. Camille, thank you. That was 7-0.
If you don't mind, I'd like to see if the select board would like to amend its request, so we match the budget request.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion?
We gotta further discuss this budget, because she's gonna turn this back to us now.
Yes.
What we do is
Because that's what.
ping pong.
Okay. This is the opposite of the way I'm used to.
Laura, do we have to vote on the original?
Okay,
No, we amended it.
So we vote on the amendment and
We voted on the amendment.
okay, if you're gonna turn it
So now
back.
I'm gonna turn it right back to you
Okay.
for
then
the
we-
fire department.
Okay, then we can discuss the
So
budget.
so they have made a recommendation. That's what this process is all
And it's
about.
provision-
I thought our request was ahead of their,
that's why I always thought select board went before the budget committee.
and it's set up that way here, so that's how I was.
So what's?
But okay,
What was your motion, Jeff?
well, let's hang on then, if we're gonna,
I was gonna make it
I
later.
guess we're gonna discuss it, the
Okay.
whole budget, right? Is that what you would like, Walt?
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead.
Well, let me preface this, for me, this exercise starts with making that 203,000 go away. And I'm gonna be a real unhappy taxpayer if I walk out of here next week and there's any of that left. Okay, so now let me talk about
Well,
why.
this is the year to do it.
Well, this is-
A later discussion.
Well,
not for me, it ain't.
Yeah, but let's talk about the fire. I hear
All
you.
right, so, Brian, I'm gonna put my, never engaged taxpayer hat on, and I walk into this room for the first time, as so many of our citizens do, and I look at the number and I see the last normal year that we had, I'm gonna say is 2020. And your budget was 101,401. So 2 years later, with an anomaly year in between,
That was the actual.
116.
The budget was 116.
116.
And but he didn't spend it, it was
Right.
101.
But from the end, I almost always look at actuals. Because why have a plan when you can have actuals? So the increase over that period from the actuals to your budget now is 55+%. So as a taxpayer, I want to know if I'm 155% safer and more protected. And oh, by the way, and you've answered this question once before. How come it is that every time there's a structure fire in this town, it's a total loss? And why increasing the fire budget 55% over a 2-year period? How is that going to change that? And
Well-
basically, what I'm saying is that this is, if not a failed model, it's a grossly suboptimal model. And I don't think 17 fire chiefs are going to change it. I think if there's not leadership from the elected officials, and I don't buy 17 towns either. I buy Thomaston, Owl's Head, South Thomaston, and St. George as a logical group to get together and start to make changes. But I'm going to get off the soapbox. So it's not going to be the last time you hear this stuff from me. Because this is like, I've been on this board now for 6 years and nothing has changed in this model, which is unsustainable over the long run. And if we want to just say, let's do another 55% or 15% increase, that's fine. But as a taxpayer, I'm going to resent it because I don't think I'm getting much for what I'm spending.
Did you want me to respond to any of that, Walter?
Yeah.
Okay, first thing I would suggest to you, in all due respect, fill out an application and join the fire department.
I'm too old.
No, you're not,
And-
because there's all kinds of, everyone has this soapbox or scenario or little blooper of what a fireman is. Until you all know what the firemen of your town, the United States, and the county of Knox do, you need to step off your soapbox. It's not all about the pennies and nickels. In regards to your comment about how come ever there's a fire, we don't save the house. Well, if you read the statistics and how fire growth works, and depending on the time of nature of the call, if you put everything into scenario of what's going on, the only way you're going to prove anything is become full-time. You're not going to do that. No one in this town's going to do that. But your aspects of saving the house, we could be full-time right now, and that house on Elm Street would still be flat. You know what the difference is between a double wide and a single wide time frame? 10 minutes. I was on scene within 3 minutes of that fire, and that fire had been burning for a good 20 minutes before I showed up. I can't control how a fire starts. I can't control how a fire grows. All I can do is the best I can do by when the pager goes off, I leave my personal life and go put my life on the line to save someone else. You got to sit on your soapbox. I'm going to sit on mine. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been the fire chief for 16. And for some reason, everybody thinks, oh, you guys can't save a house. You wonder why members of the fire department don't want to come to a board meeting, because your comment like that, it's a slam. We are fighting behind the 8 ball every time that pager drops. Every time, regardless from a lift assist to help the ambulance, to a code to save someone's life, to a house on fire. Do you realize, Walter, that house was almost a fatal fire? You don't realize that homeowner almost died?
I know the neighbors.
3 minutes. You guys want to sit and comment about sit in the back spot and
Whoa,
make
whoa,
these
Brian.
comments. I'm sorry, Walter, but
Oh, Brian, calm it down. First of all, you guys didn't comment. Walter commented. Jeff and I didn't say anything, so
and I apologize to you and John and Jeff.
lower the temperature here. Let's get back and have a discussion about the budget. I personally disagree with Walter's presentation because I think if we take out the $28,000, we're looking at a 10% increase, not a whatever the number you had, but and I don't think Brian can control the regionalization effort. And I've been on and off this board for 30 years and push for that and get nowhere either. And it's like banging your head against the wall. I don't disagree with you, Walter, on that, but like you just can't seem to get anywhere. But I'm not sure we're going to solve that tonight.
All right, well, let me make one comment, Brian. For 6 years, have I not been wildly supportive of all of your investments and all of your people? And I wasn't attacking you, I'm attacking the model that we have that doesn't work very well. and it's very expensive. And
And Walter, you're correct, and I apologize on my part too. But just looking, and I have said this for 16 years of being the fire chief. You look at line 481, and then you look at line 489. You look at it from 2020 straight across, and it keeps going up. Why does it keep going up? Yes, the members of the fire department and the town employees deserve to have somewhat of an increase. This is not our full-time job. I will sit on my soapbox on this part, that I don't see the need for the members of the fire department to be continuously every year get a raise. If you look at 2020 wages, or not even wages, salary stipends, it was 11,800. In 2023, it's 17,300. If anybody wants to do this job for the money, they might as well get it done now. If I wanted to do it for the money, we'd be having fights every year about my pay. Amount of stuff I do for this town for nothing. I'm born and raised here. I've been a fireman for 30 years, like I said. I'm not in it for the money. If I was, I'd have gone full-time, but then that wouldn't even work out either, because full-time firemen don't get paid anything either. But I'm trying my best to make this budget work. It doesn't matter what I bring into you guys every year. And I understand it's part of the big scenario. So don't get me wrong. I understand everything has to work inside of the LD1. I'm off my soapbox.
And I have to comment on that too, because you actually did ask us for a significant raise last year, and we granted part of that too. So I think we need to get this conversation fact-based here.
The reason that was changed, John, is because I don't get paid hourly anymore. I just get flat stipend. But that's in the past. We're moving forward.
Okay, so further discussion on the fire department budget amongst the select board? Salter?
I think you should go back and reduce the increases then for the firefighters.
The COLA?
Nah, see, we've had this discussion before. He tried to do that several years in a row, where he held the firefighters to no increase while everybody else in the town was getting increases. And I don't think we should be even letting department heads decide who gets the COLA and who doesn't. That's our decision, and it should be across the board. The COLA is a cost of living increase. So it applies to firefighters and ambulance and Terry and the admin and all the positions. I don't even want him to have that choice at all. That's our choice.
I tend to support that. I think when we start having different increases, it gets all out of whack, and people get upset and hurts morale and recruit. I mean, if we want to go back and revisit the COLA for everybody, I'll have that discussion, but I don't want to start picking and choosing groups, so. Any other?
Okay.
You want to make a motion? Walter, you can make a motion to that effect if you want.
No, I'm just so frustrated after 6 years of hearing the fire chiefs get together and do nothing. And the elected officials say nothing will ever change. And, we're going to be paying $500,000 a year for a volunteer fire department 10 years from now. And everybody's going to say, oh, ain't it awful? And that just, I'm sorry, but,
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think there's been a lot of effort over the years from people who try to move that, and it's like it's an immovable object.
if there's been a lot of effort, it's been totally invisible to me, and I think I'm a pretty well-informed citizen.
Well, I was right in the middle of a lot of those efforts. And the last time I tried was just recently, you know that.
Yeah. Well,
And I got shot in the face.
I was there when you got shot in the face.
And that wasn't with, some of the people doing the firing were fire and ambulance, but it was the county. Here's the problem we have in our state on this issue, and it has to change somewhere. We are municipality driven, which means we have all these silos. And it's not just with the fire department, it's with almost everything we do. If you look at other states, they have a different model. it's state or county driven. So it's easy to regionalize or have districts, or they're big friggin' towns like New York City, where they have a bazillion districts. But in our state, it's town driven. And to try to turn that corner, you can't have a town saying, I think we need to turn the corner, because it involves other towns. You can't have, what you need is somebody who can drive it over a region. So that's why the last time I tried this, I approached the county. And that's when I got, again, shot in the face. And part of the reason for that is because there is the municipalities who don't want the county having any control over things like fire departments. So it's a purely save my town, save my stuff thing. And that, and the problem is that unless the fire chiefs do it, but again, the fire chiefs are just having enough to do what they are mandated to do by the state and the feds. They don't really have time to do this. What if, what are we gonna do 20 years down the line?
Right.
It's gotta come from somewhere different. It's either gotta be driven by the state, which is, oh, by the way, how they regionalized E911 and dispatching. That used to be town by town, and the state mandated that we're gonna do something different. Or it has to come from the county, because that's the only one that has a regional view and an ability to make that happen. But until it gets away from the fire departments and the ambulances and the towns and gets up at some other level, we're just gonna be beating our heads and making this argument forever.
A couple of weeks ago, you gave a great dissertation on starting from a clean sheet of paper and what that would entail.
That's right.
And
And that's what it takes.
The number one implication of that was that the clean sheet of paper and what you were talking about would tread on so many territories and so many, this is mine, and so I asked one of my counterparts in Thomaston, what do you guys do? Are you guys talking about this at their leadership level? They said, and she said, yeah, we talk until people get bored with the discussion, and then we don't talk about it anymore. And all
I
they
can
say
say
is that they know
Thomaston
this
was
is
one of
the-
the biggest ones that
Yeah,
slapped me in the face.
Okay, all right. So
They're one of the most
let's-
parochial
let's
ones.
cheer.
So,
I'll stop trying to
So,
cure
I
cancer.
think we're really getting
COVID.
yeah.
beyond what we're gonna solve
So-
here tonight.
And although this has taken us a long time and we're talking about some really broad things, I do think it's important for the budget committee to understand these kind of things. Because it is hard to look at the budgets every year, ambulance, fire department, and trash. Those are the three things that are gonna drive the budget every year. Those are our biggies. And they're almost locked in. There's not a lot of discretionary in there. It is wages and salaries. And even if you want to do some of this regionalization, I'm not convinced that regionalization will actually save us money in the long run. But I do think it will make us more responsive. It will be a model that is capable of keeping the house from burning down more often than not. But the other part of it is, you got to look at our town and the reality of our town. Unlike Rockland and Owl's Head, we don't have any fire hydrants. Okay, so we need a tanker truck, period. That's it. That's all we've got. The only way we have to get water on a burning house is to carry it in our back and then start pulling it from other places and drafting it and moving it in. There's no fire hydrant to hook up to.
Which takes time to set up.
That's right. So yeah, so the bigger the fire truck, the bigger the tanker truck we have getting on scene, the quicker we can try to knock it down and save lives. So with our existing restrictions, the system we currently have, I think we're doing as well as we can. If you look back at the fire department's budget, I don't think his budget has increased significantly over the last 15 years. It started out at 100,000. 2020, it was 116,000.
Budget.
Yeah. So we haven't seen huge, gigantic increases, and where we have, it's almost explainable. So anyway, I will make a motion to pull the $28,571 out of the fire department's budget to make our bottom line 128,894.
Is there a second?
So you're pulling it out, but you're keeping, that's the bottom, that's your bottom line. It's this budget minus the 28,571.
Correct.
That's your motion.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second,
Further discussion?
give me a reason to support it. Give me one reason to vote yes.
Take a home run.
I don't know if
Has
it's
it-
appropriate, but I have a comment. Somewhat from an outside viewpoint, I guess. I'm really, in the last 2 years, pleased to see that there's some thought as to putting money aside for apparatus, whatever it is, you know, even down to an axe pick and so forth. Because often I've been on committees that there's no forward thinking. So you might be frustrated with, there's no forward thinking in terms of regionalization or little areas getting together. But in truth, that this is put out there and there's thought and there's, I don't know, reserves or this is great that we're thinking of modernizing our fire department and keeping it up to date and doing the best we can with what we have.
Yeah, actually, I'd say that's pretty long-standing tradition here, certainly since I've been around in the early 90s. We've always had tried to fund reserves.
But that's when it started, actually,
But-
prior to that.
Yeah. So further,
And it gets the least amount of argument.
sorry, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think trying to have more regionalization. I understand you've been banging your head against a brick wall for a decade or so, maybe two, but would it be possible to talk to just Owl's Head and St. George for starters? I mean, Thomaston is one of the recalcitrant ones. Would it be possible just to try that?
Well-
It's just a question.
I probably should take that back because Thomaston and Owl's Head and South Thomaston have regionalized on the
Well, on
solid
the
waste.
grass,
Yeah. And Owl's Head and South Thompson used to have the ambulance department together, and that, long story, but that got split because Owl's Head went with Rockland before, because of different reasons that I won't bore you with the details. St. George is difficult to work with because of different structure a lot of times, but I think Jeff's right. It wasn't just you that got shot in the face. I mean, really, we as a board made a motion. I actually thought there was a great opportunity with the county having $7 million in ARP funds, that perhaps we could use that as some sort of leverage to at least maybe get some regionalization going with the ambulance. And that's what led to your letter, which led to Jeff getting shot in the face. But and I thought nothing better when the $7 million isn't around. But anyways. So, I mean, I don't think people are giving up. It's just, I think it just gets frustrating that you feel like you're beating your head against the wall, and and the stars never seem to be aligned, even if it's something as simple as the ACO, although the other day they actually got aligned. We're not gonna share an ACO with Rockland, Owl's Head, and South Thomaston. I mean, so maybe we can make these little steps.
Well, we share an ambulance director with those three towns.
That's true.
We
Yeah.
did.
Yep, and I think that's led to some efficiencies. It isn't a legal governance structure, but I think it's led to some efficiencies and use of staff, some different, same staff people, not everybody, but
So if you do it once, why can't you repeat it?
we keep trying. So further discussion on Jeff's motion,
Chief has his hand up.
Walter, excuse me, Brian,
No, I'm all set, sorry.
further discussion on Jeff's motion? All those in favor? Aye.
I capitulate.
Okay,
Okay,
now,
we're going back,
no.
coming
Go ahead.
back to us to fire pond line, page 40.
This is reserves.
All the research on page 40.
What page are you on?
Page 40.
reserves.
And 1221 if it's more helpful.
It's actually off one, it's a 1222.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Every one of them's off.
I have two too.
So Brian, we're talking about reserve, fire pond maintenance reserves, you have 5,000.
Yeah, I don't have that paperwork in front of me due to me not feeling good. I'm not allowed inside the station, so I didn't get it today. But if you said more, the number that I requested was 5,000.
I misspoke, it's actually 5,500, my eyes didn't see the 5.
All right, that is the reason for that request is I believe it was last year's budget. We took funds out of the fire pond reserve to add dry hydrants and do some maintenance to a fire pond or two. So this year, because we got to do you can't do the pay Peter to Rob Paul thing. So this year, I'd like to put money back into that account to use for a later date, if good for you guys.
Would you just explain to, because we have new members, your fire, what you do, how many fire ponds we have and what you do, just, and why you need them?
They're right on that map. Like, go ahead.
If you don't mind enlightening.
Well, we have 20-ish fire ponds in the town. Only 2, I believe, are owned by the actual town. The other 18 or so are privately owned, so I have to have permission if I want to do anything to them. Otherwise, it's up to them, the homeowner, to maintain their fire pond so it's accessible at any time. The reason why we have fire ponds in this town, as we probably alluded a couple minutes ago, we don't have any fire hydrants, we don't have any water. So fire ponds are very extensive to our work, and that's why we have them. What else did you ask more? I'm sorry.
What you do for maintenance.
Basically the maintenance, that I've done mainly, or trying to do with some of them, is go around yearly and clean them out, which with like a trimmer, cut the grass back, make sure the sign, I put signs up at all of them for no parking, which you can tell how well that works. People still park in front of them. But I've always done that on my own. I've never charged the town or paid put in for funds to cut grass back. But the primary reason for this fund is what we did last year is out back behind the station at Stump Dump, which is a town fire pond. We actually scraped the bottom of the pond to get it back down to the original depth, and also installed 2 dry hydrants, which it makes it quicker access for us to get water out of the pond.
Dry hydrant.
They're pipes that go down there.
I just lost the. Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Brian concerning fire pond maintenance?
Because why do we have the balances to reserve
I
that?
just asked her to get
That's
the
right.
town
Yeah.
report.
We don't have that. And I'm gonna ask Brian, so we don't take this, each one of these separately, have you go and do the fire truck line and the fire equipment line, so we can do it all together. So your fire, and I know you told us you don't have it in front of you, the fire truck reserve, you're requesting $60,835.
Correct. That's 15% more, actually. Well, I'm gonna go with what numbers you have more, so that they have to be right, because if you got them, they're right. So that's 15% more than what I requested last year. It's the same process I've been using for the last 10 years. I always ask for 15% higher because the price of fire trucks goes up anywhere from 5 to 15%, excluding 2022 aspects. So that's the reason for that cost amount. And how that plays out with regards to the other topics of replacing fire trucks, that's, I don't know who gets to decide that aspect.
Say that again.
Anyone have any questions for Brian concerning the fire truck reserve line? And then the fire equipment line, 1225. you put 10,000 in, you brought that down from the request of last year.
Yeah, I'm just, it's one of those, that's just a fund for the rainy day to try and use next year versus trying to have it put in the budget.
Okay. And we don't know what's in the reserves currently, right, until,
Yeah, you know, I got you this.
Well, I got the report here, from a year ago.
You do too, Moira.
do I?
It's in what the third sheet I gave you tonight.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Oh, so this is the current bill, okay.
thank you.
I don't know you look.
It's an on page.
So
Doesn't have
is
a
everybody,
page.
the pages that came, that's very good, thanks, Eric. And I put those to the side.
Do you want a copy of one, Walter, if you don't have it on? the
No,
laptop?
I just, I don't have page numbers here.
So I understand this correctly, that right now the fire truck,
Reserve has 245,269.
and he's asking to have another 60,800.
835
Okay.
added to it. And then with the fire trucks and air reserve, there's 25,869.94. And he's asking for another 10,000. And then the fire pond currently has 4168.35 and he wants 5,500 onto that. Are there questions for Brian or concerning the reserves for the fire department?
And can I clarify for myself?
Yes,
Go ahead, Linda. If some of these numbers, say we dropped them or said, okay, we don't want to fund them this high, that takes off that final, whatever we were talking about. I lost that.
LD one.
Yeah.
The tax.
The shortfall, if you will.
Yeah.
Tax roll. Tax roll. And that's why all of the motions are preliminary, because we go and, after we go through things, see where we need to fine tune more.
For
Bob?
a question for Brian. Brian, in a typical year, what does the department spend on maintaining the fire ponds?
Well, besides last year, we haven't, because I've never sent a bill and I've done it myself.
So it hasn't been part. It
Sorry,
hasn't been
go
part of the budget then. I think it's-
Say that again, Bob, I'm sorry.
It hasn't been part of the past budget then. You just said you've just been doing it yourself.
Correct, because the years past, all I did was just go around and trim the grass down, keep it accessible so we could actually get into them. Now what I'm trying to do after I went and assessed all the fire ponds in towns, I want dry hydrants at as many fire ponds as we can get. And it's just gonna take a process of doing it. And we started with our fire pond first because it's the main one in the town. I have permission from 90% of the landowners to do what I need to do to put the fire pond, dry hydrants in. It's just gonna be a slow process.
How much does it cost, Brian, for each pond?
If you're only putting in one dry hydrant, it's around, for what we did out back was around $6,000 to $7,000, I think. Off the top of my head, I apologize if that's not correct. Might have been
Is that-
lower. I think it was actually lower because Chet Grayson's the one that actually did the work for us. So I got lucky with that one.
Brian, didn't that include though dredging that pond?
Last year, yes, that included that, and the other ponds probably wouldn't need, it's a case by case scenario when I go to do them. On which ones will have to be dug out a little bit, if not, if anything at the minimal, a dry hydrant would just have to be installed and that's it.
What would be the cost on that?
Well, I'm gonna say $1,000, but the way prices are going right now, it's hit or miss. It's PVC pipe and the connectors, I believe, are around $600 to $700 a piece. And then it's the labor of someone actually putting the pipe in the pond.
Any other questions?
So theoretically, if he adds 5,500, that could get about 9 ponds done if he didn't have to dredge, right?
Well, he has 4168 in reserves already, so he wants to add another 5,500,
It should be around 9
which would be,
something. So if it's at the lowest amount, at 1,000 to put him in, you might be able to get 9 ponds done.
or maybe if it's probably 7 because of
I think 1,000,
on the low side.
yeah.
Walter?
Okay, so he might be constrained by labor availability, but Brian, and when we started this, I think he's following the same process that we did with paving. Fund in year 1, pave in year 2, fund in year 3,
Mhm.
because that seemed to work.
Until we broke it, then we broke it up. Yeah, it's broken down.
And we started a reserve account for fire pond maintenance just only a couple of years ago when it came about. So we started to be proactive there. Further questions?
Could I ask just a technical?
Sure.
Is the fire truck repair reserve with the 25,000, this is for you, Terry, is that the same account as the fire equipment reserve?
No,
So,
it's a fire truck repair, sir. And the other one, equipment reserve.
let's see. Fire equipment, okay, down here, all right, they're not
Down.
all together, I see, okay. Okay, good, I had a feeling I didn't have that right, thank you.
So we have 3 reserve accounts. Do I have any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
Are we doing all 3 at once? Are you both doing?
I was gonna do all
individually?
3 together. We'll
All
take,
3 together.
but I'll say each one individually, but I just want to do one vote on each one.
Question,
Yes, Bob?
didn't you say last time that the select board was supposed to discuss these and vote on these first, but we got it backwards?
I
We
don't-
have
no,
been-
that's
That's not
the
how we
way
did
it used to be, yeah, I guess that got changed.
We've been doing it with the budget, doing it first.
Okay.
And for many,
But-
many years.
That was just mentioned, though.
Yeah, what happened when John and I were on a long time ago, we would see the budget at the same time you would see the budget. So we were in here, having not seen the actual budget. So we didn't make any kind of a discussion about it. We didn't talk to the department heads ahead of time. They just gave us the information. We passed it to you. We met in here. And so we voted and then passed it to you because it was our first opportunity. The last few years, prior to John and I getting back on, they switched that. So now the select board brings in the same department heads, discusses their budget, makes their decision on it. And this year, we didn't actually vote on it, but we have already compiled the budget. So it's already been presented to you from us. So all we're doing now is just validating yours and making a second vote to vote on.
And we've been doing this for about 8 years. Having the budget do it first, then going back to, because it got a little complicated before. Walter, you had your hand.
Well, no, when we picked up that process, it's because the budget committee is supposed to be advisory. So when it's flip-flopped, the appearance is that the select board is dictating to the, you're gonna give us the advice that we tell you to give us. So what's the point?
No, I get it. The only disadvantage is listening to the select board discuss it gives us more information.
So.
Yeah, that's what.
But then we can come back. That's why it's provisionally. And that's why a lot of times, some things are taken care of, not really taken off and reduced the first time around. They get reduced the next time around.
Okay.
Walter?
a parting thought as I wind down to June 30th. Consider having the budget committee assign an individual liaison to each of the major budget makers to watch them and learn about their process. And also have representatives of the budget committee come to when the select board reviews those budgets, so that you are more informed, not only about the overview, but also about the details. So budget committee, food for thought, and select board in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the final part is that the reason we do this as a joint one is, and I know that I'm not, as you can see, I'm not shy about jumping in. We can participate in yours with the permission of your chair.
Yeah.
So if you have a question of the select board during your process, there's nothing wrong with asking through the chair that question.
Well, and we've been doing that vice versa.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. You just have to get your hand and someone doesn't say, there's other eyes helping. Those poor Camille, I'm always looking up at the screen.
Okay,
All right, so back,
Could you clarify? I apologize.
no problem.
You said there three were
The three that
together, but which three of these? were?
we have talked about,
Could you do it by line? If I could-
okay, the fire pond line is 1222,
Right.
fire truck line is 1224, and the fire equipment line is 1225.
I see, okay, and the other fire things further down, we're not dealing with that.
No, because there, I'm just going with the agenda.
I'm just trying to
I'm not
clarify.
changing the agenda.
The others are zero.
And,
Oh,
and so, is there a motion? Or there more discussion?
A motion to preliminarily approve 5,500 for fire pond maintenance, 60,835 for fire truck reserve, and 10,000 for fire equipment reserve.
Is there a second to the motion for the fire pond, the fire truck reserve, and the fire equipment reserve?
Second.
Camille.
I second.
Okay. Further discussion for putting into the reserves, fire pond maintenance to put in 5,500, in fire truck reserve to put in 60,835, and in fire truck reserve to put in 10,000. Is there further discussion to the motion that's been made and seconded? Everybody okay? All in favor of the preliminary numbers for reserve?
Aye.
7-0. Thank you, Camille. I forget, I'm supposed to ask you to say your name on Zoom. No, so motion passes provisionally for the reserve. You got those numbers. So back to John.
okay. Questions?
Now I will rejoin the team by moving to approve fire pond maintenance for 5,500, the fire truck reserve at 60,835, and I will ask a question about that. Fire equipment reserve at 10,000, and no funding for the fire truck repair reserve.
Second. Okay, I have a question on the fire truck repair reserve. Brian, why are you not requesting anything there? That's, given what you were talking about earlier about how we're having all these expensive repairs, and I don't get that.
This account was set up, I believe, Jeff, you were still on the board, back in 03-ish. Oh, no, it would have been 03. I took over in 06. So 07-ish, we blew a pump on a fire truck, and I had to go to a special town meeting to get approval to fix that particular pump. So this reserve account was built or put into place for a fire pump on a fire truck or the actual engine on the pump on the truck. It was not set up with the intentions of the routine maintenance. At least that's the way it was set up. This was set there so we didn't have to go to a special town meeting in the event that we blew a pump up on a fire truck.
So my question is, not why, I understand the genesis of the account. My question is, why are you not asking for anything?
Because when we originally set it up, I believe we divided it over 3 years to get to the maximum of $25,000 to have just sitting there to go towards that expense. It wasn't something that was going to keep building and building and building. Once it got to the, Thank
Okay,
you.
so the simple answer is you feel you have enough in there. Okay, thank you.
And just want to add that we started that fund, I believe in 2010 or 11, because it was the bump truck that cost almost, more than what we have had, and it was like 50,000 that we had to repair. It was huge, so that's why we started that.
So I have a question? Yeah, okay.
So, and it's did we incorporate the 6835 in the spread, the funding flow that we did for the, we can revisit it anyway, because we're gonna have to do that, so.
I think
I guess I thought it was a lower amount, but it doesn't matter, because we're gonna have to do that anyway.
I think in the second scenario that I did, I included
You
that
included
amount,
the-
but I will say this, since you brought that up, given what we're hearing from Brian about the price increases, I question whether that's enough. But
What we have to hope for is that the bond bank rates that we have now don't change substantially, and, the motivation is to go for that borrowing sooner rather than later.
Right, but Brian's also talking about double-digit inflationary increases on fire trucks here that we're seeing almost every month. Okay, further discussion? Brian, you have your hand up?
yeah, just quickly, just because you guys just brought this up, I will have theoretically better numbers or more updated numbers by April 11th on the apparatus. All the manufacturers have been told I need them by 6 o'clock or they're not a part of the process. So hopefully we're going to get better, somewhat nailed down numbers. All subject to change, obviously, until we go to town meeting.
Unfortunately, though, we're done, aren't we, by
We're done
April 11th?
The 7th,
Yeah,
we're done on the 7th.
that's unfortunate timing, but
Yeah, that's not, it won't impact this year's budget. It's,
well, if we wanted to make an adjustment to the reserve,
oh,
is what I'm thinking, yeah, but, so.
He
But
has
so
his
be it.
hand up.
Just another thing to remember, John, is that we can't purchase a fire truck until I have the definite answer from FEMA. So regardless of what cost numbers we're looking at, we can't, I know it's probably for a different discussion, so I'll stop.
I understand that, I'm just thinking about financial planning purposes, that's all. So, but anyways, go. I'm done with that discussion. So. Further discussion, further questions? All those in favor?
all right.
Okay, we're going to talk about general public safety, which is on page 25.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Brian.
Get well
Feel
soon.
better, and thanks for not coming.
Is there a line number?
760.
Thank you.
Do we want to review, does someone on the select board, would you like someone on the select board to review the overall budget? Because this includes several people, not just EMA, but
Right, because Betty's up there.
I see that. But I mean, before she opens and talks about her part, would you like someone
That would
to
be
do
very
that?
good.
Do you want to do that, Jeff or Walter?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
Okay, so the EMA director, we're increasing her stipend, that position stipend, because it's necessary.
You didn't increase, you went, the department head shows 3,500 and you had 3,000.
Right, she requested, and the next line, we'll discuss that, but she requested a $5,000 stipend for her and a deputy. And then how we split that is, her intention was to do 1,500 initially for the deputy and then increase it to 2,000. And so we just said, start it out as 2,000. So that's the reason for that, is the 5,000. But we increased her particular stipend. If you look at previous years, it was $2,200 a year, and that is not enough for the work that she's required to do, especially over the last couple of years. But all the last couple of years really did was highlight how underpaid that particular position was. The next line, E911 coordinator, that's our road naming authority. And that's a simple 5.9 increase. The ACO, and I don't know if yours shows us, do you show, what do you show for the ACO?
3,000.
Okay, scratch that, it should be $4,470.
4,470,
Yes.
okay.
And the reason for that is because we finally got somebody who was willing to do it. They just happened to already be
So
doing
is that
it.
amount in this number?
I don't know if it's reflected in that one.
I can't remember if yes, because I sent you, what's the number?
The date.
Let's see. This is the one you just gave me on 320, or it's dated 327.
Yeah, what's the number of the total expenses by department?
66,806.
Oh, am I on the wrong sheet? What sheet are you on?
I'm
Lauren?
looking at where I'll just go the tax levy number.
On the funding sheet?
It's the funding, yes.
You haven't updated that since Tuesday night, have you?
I have,
Oh, you
and
have,
I printed it out for them.
Okay.
So,
okay.
It should be.
And so public safety.
general public safety on the funding sheet should be 66,506.
No, that's 67.
66,806 is what you have in this book.
Should be
Oh,
six-
yeah, I gotta look at the.
67,900.
67,097.
397.
390.
That's correct. Can I suggest that you continue walking down through, and I think that'll
Yeah,
simplify it, and then we can agree on a number.
yeah. So, and then we have been without a health officer for years. And the way the law states is that if you do not have an appointed health officer, the chair of the select board is the de facto health officer, which is.
Which I didn't know
totally-
until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, which is totally, and so what we are doing is soliciting for a health officer, and we had no money put against that, so we're starting that off at 2,000. So that's the changes.
What's the role of the health officer?
Well, that's interesting. I think it changed
The
dramatically.
house next door to you and say that this is a health hazard, clean it up.
Right.
All right,
Because
I'm all
we don't
for it.
That'd be at the top of the priority
It
list.
also changed dramatically in the last year or so.
So the health officers who the Maine state was coming to with all the information on COVID.
Well, that's what Betty was doing.
That's right. So
Right.
Betty's been doing that job, but she was not.
But she wasn't the health
She
officer.
wasn't
the health
being
officer.
paid for it either.
But she wasn't the health officer.
So,
I just have a comment.
and on the next line, wages, where it has something in there for the ACO, that's now gone. So the individual who we have now appointed as the ACO, who's willing to do our town for the same amount that they're getting paid in Alstead.
Is that 921 gone now? Is
Yes.
that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
zero down.
Yeah.
Okay,
No more wages for the ACO, it's all stipend.
okay.
And he gave you the new stipend.
FICA's just carried over.
Well, it'll be a
It's gonna
slight,
be
It'd be
changed.
slightly
yeah, it's gonna be a
different.
slight change on that because of the change in the wages. Shouldn't be more than a few bucks, right?
934.
Yeah, it should be 934. Contract services, that's actually down. But the biggest number in there is the dispatching fee, which is really for all of the public safety, first responders. And that's kind of a guess, and that's one of the issues we're gonna have with our cycle. Before, we knew what that number was gonna be,
But we don't know now.
but we don't know now what it'll be for January through June of coming year. So that's pretty much a guess. I think all the rest of it is pretty straightforward. There was for the health officer, and this is at Betty's recommendation because of an incident that she had. She wants to make sure that the health officer has some kind of a way of being recognized as the health officer when they go into somebody's house and say, your house is
According to
is
Health hazard.
it's a health hazard. Or they go into the gig store to say, these are some of the things you need to do as dictated by the CDC. So all the rest of it is pretty much what
Jeff,
they've
what
been.
is the emergency alert system? We've never had that.
Oh, yeah.
That's too
Betty can
big.
probably.
And hey, Betty, do you want to talk on that's another recommendation from Betty that sounds like a real good idea. So
Betty?
The emergency alert system is, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Amber Alerts that go out when there's a lost child. This particular emergency alert system will go out if there's a serious disaster or emergency that the town residents need to be notified for. And the city of, I've been working with the city of Washington. They have already put it in place. And they're having a lot, the second day, I think they had it online for people to sign up. They had 50 people. And that's really a lot for Washington has a population about the same as South Thomaston. And it's very easy to sign up. You just put your cell number in and your email, and you're signed up, and you'll receive alerts if and when we send them out. And for $250, you can't beat the price, because the Amber Alert system, of which the county was trying to become involved in, is just prohibitively expensive. I have been doing research on emergency alerts. It's one of the missing pieces that we have not had available for our citizens. And I'm really excited that we're going to get this going. So that's the emergency alert system.
So it's similar to like the state emergency that does a citizens alert.
Exactly.
They
That's
also, the state does the Amber Alert.
Correct. And their systems are, like I said, they're prohibitively expensive. This, the $250 costs us about 4 cents a call, which you just can't beat that price. And Washington, the city of Washington has tried it out, and they said it's just really easy to use. And that's what I was looking for, was something that could be implemented and used user-friendly.
and that's a one-time cost. And until you expend all of the minutes that are associated with that cost, you keep it. So it could be 4 or 5 years worth of.
So it's like funding your Easy Pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's right.
But people do need to sign up,
Yes.
or it doesn't, you don't get it.
And how would we get that to happen?
We have to have a campaign to get people to sign up through put signs out, send it out on the email list. I mean, that's always a challenge.
Yeah, but if Terry's email list
Yeah,
gets to quite a few people. How many do you have on your list?
about 240.
That's pretty good. Walter, you had your hand up?
Yeah, Betty, can you talk about your plans for the assistant EMA director succession plan, if you will, training plan?
I'm not a kid anymore, and the last couple of years have seriously been pretty brutal. Like you've heard before, I was also doing the public health officer's job. And it was very grueling, many, many hours. Anyway, I would like a deputy and I would like to train them because the EMA director's position is not, it's becoming more and more complex. It's becoming a lot more work. And it's time that we bring somebody in to possibly take my position in the future. But they seriously need to be trained. They can't, we used to be able to just take somebody and put somebody in this position, but these programs are very sophisticated. There's a lot of programs that I put in place that if I were to retire, they would go away. One of the important things that we do have, and the county EMA director brags about us on a regular basis, is that we are the only town in the county that has 18 shelter volunteers that would even volunteer to open a shelter during a pandemic. And it's an outstanding group of people, and I would hate for them to be just dropped. So looking at the big picture, having a deputy come in that can be trained to take over for me eventually is I think a really good solution to a long-term problem. That's my spiel.
Good idea. And Betty, I just wanted to say, it's nice when Terry sends out the info on the weather and the other info. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of compliments on that. People really do enjoy getting those alerts. So you got to thank Terry for sending them out on the newsletter. I just send them to her and she gets to do the other part.
It is really good communication. Are there questions for Betty or Jeff on the general public safety budget? If no questions, do I hear a motion? Bob?
I'd like to make a preliminary, a motion for a preliminary recommendation. What is recommended minus, we just so I'm correct, we changed line 769 from 2,000 to 4470, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we've eliminated the $921 the animal control officer, line 771.
Correct.
Okay, so that
And
my
then-
motion
And then
is,
we also changed, because they gave us the Medicare, FICA Medicare, it went to 934, if I heard that correctly.
Yes, I can give you a total, the total is.
That would be wonderful.
That means scroll down, you won't go.
so that'd be line 774, changes from 892 to 934.
Correct.
67,397.
That's the total there.
Yes.
Then that is my motion.
Okay, is there a second to the motion for Department 590, General Public Safety of a preliminary budget number of 67,397? Okay, Sandra. Seconded, motion has been made and seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion concerning general public safety at 67,397? No further discussion. All in favor of general public safety at 67,397? Camille, yes?
Yes.
All right, passes 0.
Okay, select board, questions?
Well, hold on 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna go and do the reserve
Okay,
at one time, and then that way you
Fine,
can do
yeah.
both of them. So we're going back to the reserve. This is on page 40. And it's line 1234. $10,000 into the emergency disaster reserve. Betty, do you want to mention anything about emergency disaster reserve?
Didn't we increase it last year? What is the current balance right now? I don't have the paperwork on it.
30,835.62.
Yeah,
I would be,
15,000, it has a note for Island Road project.
Right, so there's an asterisk on that. It really is 15,000.
Yes.
I would be ecstatically happy if you put $5,000 back into that fund.
Well, you're requesting 10,000.
Okay. I like it. I don't have the paperwork on it.
It's okay, it's better.
Well, I like the fun.
You just want to double the fine.
Yeah, with the, I misspoke. I meant 5 times 2.
We got it. All right. Bob,
What does the Island Road project have anything to do with this? Just
That's
to
where it
get the
started.
hell off the island?
Yeah, that's where it started.
When we put together the funding plan for the Island Road, first of all, it started with Betty
Betty, do it.
bringing the issue of preventing access or more importantly, egress in the event of a disaster. So when we were putting together the funding, we had a limitation on what we could use from the paving reserve. And rather than from the operating budget, we drew on Betty's reserve, which she kindly approved us, agreed with. And but we haven't moved the funds yet. That's why the asterisk that John's mentioned.
It's committed to that.
It's committed.
project. So even though the 30 is sitting there, it hasn't, it's spoken for. 15 of it.
Other questions for Betty or the select board concerning public safety reserve emergency disaster? If not, do I have a motion on the table? Bob?
Motion. We'll see where it goes. So Betty tipped her hat and said that she would be really happy to have $5,000 put into that fund. The motion is preliminary motions to fund it at $5,000.
All right. Is there a second to the motion on the table to reduce emergency disaster reserve to 5,000? That is seconded. Okay. The motion has been made and seconded to reduce emergency disaster reserve to 5,000. Is there further discussion?
I would like to
Sandra?
know, I would like to know why do we need either 5 or 10? What is it going to be held in reserve for? What are we expecting, needing to be prepared for?
Betty? Can you hear us?
I'm here. Seriously, I just put my foot in my mouth, which I occasionally do. If we have a disaster, just the debris removal is going to be outrageously expensive. And to cut this fund and to nickel and dime it is a grave error in judgment. But if the funds are there, we can use those funds for food, for sheltering supplies, for debris removal, which is going to be the biggest, most costly expense that we will have to go through, because we will have to hire outside contractors in order to do that, and they don't come cheaply. And during a disaster, it's extremely competitive. You're lucky to even get someone to do debris removal. And I don't know if, I'm sure that you've seen pictures of places who have been hit by hurricanes and tornadoes. It's a mind-boggling task to just remove the debris in order so that the first responders can get through to help people. So to nickel and dime this reserve, I seriously believe is not a good idea. That's my humble, unbiased opinion.
Thank you. Question?
At the risk of having the select board want to shoot me, Betty, what do you think a reasonable, if you had the reserve that would let you sleep at night, how big would it be? I mean, not necessarily all for this year, but what would be your vision for a good solid reserve?
If I really want to be honest about it, I would say a minimum of $75,000. And we would be very lucky to get by that.
So recommending that over the long term, we be about aiming for that kind of number?
I didn't get the last part.
So 75,000 is more like the long range goal that you would recommend?
Yes, I believe so, because the storms are becoming more frequent. There are more hurricanes. The water actually is rising, and we have some problems that are coming our way in the future. I think we have been extremely lucky not to have been hit by one of these hurricanes. We've come very close within the last 5 years. But I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but I am an emergency manager, and I've been through many disasters, and I've been in many communities that have not been prepared, that do not have supplies, that do not have reserves, and they are absolutely devastated. And the majority of my job in the past 5 years is trying to build emergency management up to avoid those things in the future. I would like to hope that they won't happen, but I'm a realist, and I believe that at some time we will have a problem. And if we're prepared, we'll come out fine. If we're not, we're going to be in trouble. So that's one of the reasons why I seriously believe that you can't cut that emergency reserve fund down to the bare bones. It would be a grave error in judgment. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. That answered my question. Jeff?
I will add that we've asked you that same question for the last couple of years.
And it's not been 75,000.
No, it started at 20,000 and then it went to 30,000 and we spent 15. So the goal was to replenish it to 30. So,
Yes.
so 75,000 is a new goal.
Yes.
Not this year.
Correct.
Further questions concerning emergency disaster? Holden?
Well, this is also, this is one of the shortcomings of us not knowing what the surplus number is. Because the fact is that over the few years up until last year, when we were generating significant amounts of surplus above and beyond history,
We put it,
this would be a double count because we would fund it from surplus.
Yeah.
So. If we generate a significant amount of surplus this year, when Betty comes next year, we might be having a different discussion, like zeroing, no increase.
does the
Why have
budget
two
committee,
rainy day funds?
does the budget committee people understand what Walter was saying? Okay, I just want to make sure.
So we don't know when are we getting these reserve numbers?
But we have the reserve.
We got the reserve.
We have the reserves, we don't have
It's the
surplus
surplus.
because we don't end the year until June
So
30th.
what is the like, I mean, considering how much taxes went up last year, what's the likelihood that we don't have anything that's over?
I think,
But
We should-
they're not related.
I think it's good.
I think it's gonna be good because we're overachieving revenue in both excise, auto excise, significantly overachieving in ambulance. And the state is making its commitment. And I think most of the budgets are underspending. Now, if it's a significant underspend, then that's a problem in and of itself, but. So I don't, my sense is we're gonna be in better shape by far this year than last year.
I agree too, but I will say, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, that because people are having trouble finding new cars to buy, the excise has tailed off recently.
Ah,
yeah,
It's not-
And it's predicted that next year the excise tax will not be as
Yeah, I mean,
nice as it
it's-
was.
It's gonna,
when
it's
people were
gonna take
buying
a couple of
them.
years for the chip to get back
yeah,
in stock.
I mean, I think excise seems to be tailing quite quickly.
So it helps us in the surplus, so that's gonna be money we got in that we weren't expecting, but it's not gonna help us for the budget going forward,
Yeah.
except when we're using the surplus. So,
Further questions,
Those chips get-
discussion? So the motion on the table is to reduce emergency disaster reserve to 5,000. Ready for the vote? All in favor? Against? Okay, it passed, again, the motion dies from 4-3 is the vote. Okay, we have another motion on the table.
I motion we preliminarily approve 10,000 for the emergency disaster reserve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, what do you guys,
Choose one.
it makes it easier for the note taker to have the same person do the motion in the second, makes it easier for them.
Okay,
I'll do
sorry.
Sandra.
I'll copy paste right now. I got it.
Okay. All right, motion has been made and second to keep the reserve at $10,000 for emergency disaster reserve. Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. Ready for the vote? All in favor of the motion to keep, have $10,000 in the emergency disaster reserve, say aye. 1, 2, 3. Camille? Camille, did you vote?
I
Okay.
did not.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, did you vote or not?
I did.
okay, so there's 3.
One.
Oh,
Four of
Kate,
Four.
Kate, 4.
Number 4.
Okay, and then against? So 3. So it passes 4-3.
Did we vote pass?
No,
No, first-
the one,
First one failed.
the one died. That's why we had a new motion.
Oh, okay. I thought the first one was 4-3. Never mind.
It died 4-3.
Oh, yeah, okay.
4 of you.
3-4, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I have it as 3-4 down,
Right.
4-3-1.
Well, I was put the bigger number on there. So.
I always put the yes number first. Okay, back to us.
Back to you.
Okay, where are we? I lost it. It was page 40, was it? No.
Page 25.
25, thank you. All right. Questions, discussion from the select board regarding the revised number of 67397?
No, I move that we approve, we give preliminary approval to other public safety budget of 67,397.
Second.
Discussion. I have one question. Betty, I noticed that you have not budgeted, you had mileage for $100 budgeted in 20, didn't spend anything, nothing was budgeted last year, haven't spent anything. Have you just decided not to submit mileage, or it's only $100, so I don't need a, give me the Reader's Digest version.
Well,
answer.
I just decided not to do it, but seriously, with gas prices the way they are, it might be a good idea to leave it there.
Well, there isn't anything there.
Didn't budget.
I know, I might have to start using it.
Well, I'm also thinking too, if you have another person, they may, as your assistant, they may not be as generous.
January,
I mean, well, actually, truth be known, the reason I thought of it today is because I ran around today and was pulling off postings, and my job is uncompensated interim road commissioner. And pulling off postings and putting up signs, and I had to go to the hardware store, and I had a full tank of gas, and the next thing I knew, I was like almost a half a tank of gas, and I said, man, I don't mind doing this for nothing, but this is actually costing me money, so should I be putting in mileage? So I'm just sort of curious if that's a hole in your budget.
well, see, I go out after every storm and do a tour around the town. And you're absolutely right. It does add up. And, you know, before the gas prices were reasonable, but it's getting kind of expensive now. So, and I forgot about the deputy position. You're right. They might not be as generous as I am. So is it possible, could we increase that to $200?
Well, I mean, that's, the select board would have to vote on that, and someone would have to make a motion to that effect. I would, is there a motion to increase it? Put to, not increase, well, I guess it's increasing from 0 to 200, but is there a motion to that effect from the board?
I'll amend my motion. That we add 200 to mileage and bring the total to 597.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I have a question for Terry
okay.
about the 50,000. Is that just one of the well thought out forecasts? The dispatch fee?
That was just well thought out forecast.
It was?
Yep.
So I actually had the same question. I noticed that's down from,
Yeah, I thought to make it higher.
If we were, our number in the budget was down, and then you made it go up to 50. It
Oh,
was,
it was lower than
it
that?
was lower than,
It was
It went
49
down.
something. I think.
the number in the county budget.
right, was down from what we paid last year.
Okay, and then Jeff, that's right, I remember now. Then you suggested that it might be higher. You might want to round that off and make it a little higher, and that's how we came up with the 50. Yeah. I mean, truth be known, when they assess us that, we're gonna have to pay it, no matter what we budget.
It's like
It's like the school assessment.
like wages and salary.
Well, it's even more than that. Yeah. So at least wages and salary, we could lay people off. Here we can't. So, so are we comfortable with the 50,000?
Yeah, I was just,
Walter?
yeah, I just was.
Yeah, I had the same question. Yeah. Okay, so do we need to now vote on the revised total?
We did.
Okay.
And
All
that's
right, so
under-
you asked the question after we vote. Okay,
That's under,
okay, so,
fuel, right? Mileage, EMA mileage.
Yes.
yeah, so let's go back to reserves.
Page 40.
And, okay, questions, comments? Budget committee voted to, put $10,000 preliminary vote, to put $10,000 more into that account than is currently in there. Discussion, comments?
I move to fund the emergency disaster reserve at 10,000.
Second.
Well,
Discussion?
yes, discussion. Go ahead. You can start.
I like where Bob was going. And would have been right there with it, except that we had already made at least a soft commitment to build that fund back up, and I don't feel good about reneging on that.
That's exactly my thought.
So if we have roughly 16,000 in there, and the goal prior to tonight was 30,000, although Betty's vision, for lack of a better word, is 75,000. I guess I'll support the motion, but I just think I do see this as one of those places we can perhaps revisit, and if we have to start trimming here and there. So, and I think I'm gonna file that in the back of my head. So,
Yeah,
with that in mind, I'll vote for it.
yeah, and just so you know, I've already put that in the column of from surplus, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's, if we can take something else from surplus, that lowers the taxes. But anyways, go ahead. All right, all those in favor? Okay,
All right, I'm gonna, just for a second, just, because we're now $200 off the budget committee with the general public safety, would you like to redo that? Is there a motion to do that, or?
Do we need to amend or?
We've already done the motion, so it would be a new motion to increase the general public safety by $200, making it 67597 to be with the additional mileage. So move up.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to increase the general public safety by $200 per mileage to 67597. Any further discussion? And that's a provisional preliminary number. All in favor? Yeah. Camille? Camille? Okay, I'm gonna put at 6-0 right now because I don't have, Smita. We'll have to check with her.
Gone missing.
6-0.
It's a blank. Okay, so our next item is building and grounds. That's page 9. Who's presenting building and grounds? Jeff?
I don't know.
Kerry, I think probably can do most of it, and we can maybe fill in on some other.
I would let you proceed.
A lot of this is pretty standard from year to year to year, but.
Well, we have some additional with the paving and Guilford Boat.
Exactly. I was gonna say, yep.
So what I would suggest is hitting wages are, it's because of the 5.9% almost, but it went down from, so I just need you to,
What's your question?
well, I want you to hit like wages, benefits, contract services, but most of the wages went up, but this wage went down for the custodian.
Well, not, remember, 21 was 18 months.
What? So is it up, is the custodian getting the 5.9 as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I want you to just, and then hit the contract services after that.
Do I need to repeat what you just said about the?
No.
Okay.
Nope,
Oil maintenance. $1,000. Septic tank pump, it will be $650. Trash removals, $265. Water treatment salt system is $415. Mowing is $3,000. Unanticipated, I put in $5,000.
And I have a question. Yep. What is unanticipated and why did,
Things that you can't anticipate that are gonna happen. I don't know, Moira. I'm sorry, but it's 8:30 at night. I don't know.
But that is a good answer, the things that are on
I didn't anticipate the question.
I don't know. I mean, there's,
well, that would be an equipment, so I disagree with you on that. So it would, I understand it being,
looking around, I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong. I'm
Go
sorry.
on.
I'm sorry, Moira. Fire extinguishers, 884. Floor maintenance, I put in $1,000 because I asked him to come and give us an estimate. He came, but he never gave us an estimate, and never returned my phone call, so I just took a stab at that.
so that was a question I had. What, do you need new flooring or is it?
These floors haven't been waxed since I left before.
Oh, so you're
They're
talking about
disgusting.
scrubbing and sealing,
Yes,
Okay.
disgusting.
and it's gonna be that much? Wow.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be surprised if that's not, if that's enough.
Yeah, don't forget downstairs.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Facility maintenance, I put in 9,000. I have been waiting for some estimates to come back, but people don't move very fast, so I had to plug a number in. Generator maintenance is what they quoted me. Sprinkler system testing at GBS, that's what they quoted me. Seco security, that's what they quoted me. Paving the fire department parking lot, you're gonna have to talk to John about that. The PDQ fire bay doors is a maintenance agreement with PDQ to basically, it's like any other of like a maintenance package thing you have.
So that's new, because we haven't had it before.
We haven't had it for, no,
Okay.
it was recommended that we participate in that this year.
And then if we could go to the paving and have John, because we haven't done that.
And that's the point. We haven't done that forever, and we're losing this parking lot out here and out back, it's really elevated. It needs to be done, or we're gonna be totally losing it, and I got an estimate at 14.4. Unfortunately, that estimate was like 6 months ago or 5 months ago, and last time I talked to the guy, he said that's probably light, but we'll do what we can do. That paving is really volatilely tied to oil prices, because you use it in the product, you use it to heat the mixture, and you use it to transport it and apply it, so.
Yeah, we didn't do it 2 years ago, when oil was cheap.
Yeah, well, I wasn't dealing with that then, but I am right now. So, that's just a recommendation that I make, that, before we lose this area and we end up spending twice as or 3 times as much digging it out and redoing it, I think we need to get it. I equate it to sort of like if your roof is leaking, you need to fix it before the rest of the house gets destroyed, so. Anyways, that's all I can tell you at this point.
We want us to move on to fuel, and
Please.
as everyone knows, the price of fuel has risen. So I would go back and added lots of money to these fuel lines. At our meeting, I'm gonna throw this one on Jeff. Jeff suggested a price of $5. So that's what we did. I have talked to Jeff CB at Maritime, where we get our fuel, and he just basically said it's a hard thing to predict what we can lock in at next year. He said it could be around $384, it could be higher, so.
Mhm. I thought the number was low based on what
Well,
today,
yeah,
because it can change.
yeah.
It's volatile.
And if you could predict it, you wouldn't be sitting around this table.
Phone is pretty basic, isn't and it's pretty sad, some phone system. It crackles. It's hard to hear on when it's wet, but they keep saying to fix it. Electricity, of course, after I did it the first time, it went up, so I bumped up the electricity. The Lex line is fuel oil at Guilford Butler School. Again, I increased it by $5 a gallon.
And I should say, we don't have a good history here at all either, because
These are really guessing. I did the same with electricity and
but with Guilford Butler, we had that added problem, this Irish 13, we couldn't get them
yeah, it took a long
To
time to
take
switch over.
and transfer the electricity from their account to our account. I mean, Terry must have called them
Yeah.
20 times. And they finally did it, so we don't have a good history here still on electricity.
And is this based at the school, at Guilford Butler, just being open the 3 days a week, or is it thinking of being open more? I'm just asking if that's just based on the 3 days that she's open.
I didn't base it on days, I based it on the amount of gallons we used, and I added 1,400 gallons to what was used when they've been in there all the time. I predict that they probably will be open more than 3 days a week.
Well, I think the library itself might be open 3 days a week, but I think the intent is to have a lot of activities in there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
ballet's
I mean,
starting out pretty soon.
Yoga and ballet
Yoga.
and Mahjong is moving from the
uh,
Little Red School up there. And
I don't know, have you actually seen any bills? Because they've been open, so to speak, to work on the building too, so that would give you some indication of
Right,
usage.
that's why I took the gallons as
Mm.
opposed to days.
Yeah.
Internet, website, email is pretty much what it is. Boiler pressure vessels, that's pretty much what it is. Bottled water hasn't gone up in price, but does seem to go up in consumption. I lost some space. Here we go. Insurance. And then they predicted they say 7% increase. I put it in the notes. 7. Yep. Miscellaneous supplies, again, is a guesstimate. Supplies are going up, paper towels going up, cleaning supplies going up, paper's going up.
But Terry, you're budgeting the same as FY20 though.
Yeah.
I wasn't here then, I didn't control the supplies.
Okay, so you don't think the FY20 budget was accurate, is that what you're saying?
Well, that was quite a, it shot right up there from the budget, didn't it?
How do we spend
Yeah,
$15,000
It was
in actual?
15,000.
It's because that year, things got put in
Every
places
one
they
line.
didn't really belong.
One line.
Oh, was that the year that they decided to put all the supplies in one
I don't know.
category instead of saying fire supplies and EMS supplies and
I don't know.
That wouldn't account for that difference,
Yeah.
that's pretty shocking.
because you're still doing that, aren't you? Aren't you buying the supplies for everybody?
Yeah.
And they all
So-
go in admin.
This was something that was just journaled wrong or put in the wrong place, and
Shocking.
when I, so when I put the actuals in there, that's what the actual was for building the ground, so I just kept it where it was.
Any questions for Terry? For the Selectboard? Kate?
For facility maintenance line 294, I know that you're just guessing, but your guess is significantly higher than the 2020. Do you have any like rationale for why the jump?
increase in prices. Very little maintenance done in the last several years, that I think there's a lot of maintenance we could do, and I think we make a lot of strides.
Other questions? Hearing no other further discussion, do I hear a motion? Deb?
I move that we approve funds for building and grounds at 90,811.
Motion. Oh, it's preliminary.
What? Preliminary.
Motion's been made for accepting the budget for building and grounds at 90,811. Is there a second to the motion? Bob seconds the motion. So the motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion concerning the 90,811 for building and grounds? No further discussion. So all in favor of Department 540 building and grounds for preliminary budget number of 90,811? Camille?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. And then it's back to you guys.
Okay, questions, concerns, comments?
I have one. So the $13,000 that was budgeted for facility maintenance last year, nothing has been spent?
I believe some has been spent since December 30th.
Okay.
Like a roof on the doghouse?
Yeah,
That's what I was.
Again, some of it was, we can't get anyone work.
Oh, I'm not criticizing, I'm just
But the
looking at
doghouse-
how much it's gonna roll to surplus, so.
Exactly.
Why is it not-
Already have it.
It's on the list. Like the GBS on insurance. Nothing there. Which there should be.
What was that, Laura?
There's nothing under insurance for the Guilford Butler School. Under
Oh.
the actual,
No, actually.
yeah, so either that'll come a little later or
I don't think it was broken up that way last year.
I think it's fair to say before Terry got back here, and I don't know if we can, so we had a few accounting problems.
well, the note just says gone from unoccupied to library using the building.
Right,
Which is
but
gonna
it was
change.
still insured,
Right,
but it wasn't, it didn't have its own line last year. I don't believe, Guilford Butler did not have its own insurance.
It had a couple of different places.
yeah, but we've asked for all of it to be capitalized and to have it.
But at the risk of prolonging this conversation, Terry and I have talked about, our chart of accounts has really gotten
Messy.
messy. I mean, it used to be very neat, and it's just, people just create things and just over the years, and lines get plugged in here. It used to have a real logic to it, and we've lost that.
And the hard thing is, it's difficult to
Get it.
get it back. Yeah, because you lose that history in the spreadsheet. It's just,
Yeah. But- So I'm not sure where we're at.
So I move that we preliminarily approve the buildings and grounds budget of 90,811.
second.
Further discussion. I just have one comment at the risk of prolonging this, and I'm as tired as everybody. I will say that in the past, we used to have an unanticipated line for just that, unanticipated. And then on the facility maintenance, we had a list of projects with that we were planning to do with prices attached to them. And that was the difference between those two lines. It seems like those have become blurred now.
But that's, after we talked about it, that's what I asked Ralph for, and.
Yeah.
And I just haven't gotten it yet.
But I mean, that's what, I'm just
That's why
explaining to people,
it's-
that was the difference between those two lines, is one was truly unanticipated, you know. The window, you came in here and the window was broken, I mean, you know, or whatever, you know, the ceiling fell down. And then other things were things that we had planned, and we sort of lost that, and trying to gain that back, but anyways, okay.
Actually, I do have a question, because I don't have it in front of me, and that's how much is in the reserve.
The building ground reserve?
And do we have any insight into the
The
remaining?
reserve is 27,923.
All right, how much is the boiler? Because that day is coming.
It is coming.
That reserve was really targeted at that.
Right,
and,
to replace the boiler.
Okay, further discussion? Okay. Amended motion? Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to make sure you were satisfied.
Well, we're gonna have to deal with that sooner or
Right,
later.
well, I thought maybe you were gonna say, let's take 5 of that 9 and put it in reserve or something, but okay. All those in favor? Okay. Next.
Well, I just want to, for the budget, there was nothing put in for building reserve and reserve. And is that because you felt that the 27.9 is enough for the boiler?
To be honest with you, I don't think we had a discussion about that, to be perfectly frank. But I'm satisfied with it because I'm not sure what the 9,000 is for.
Okay, I just want to double check, so you don't miss it. All right, next item is streetlights, page 27. Did all the lights get replaced? Because there was 2 lights that didn't have light bulbs last year. You're looking at me like I'm out.
No, I know, if you say it, I know it's true.
I did not know that there was 2 lights that did not have.
And I'll go back to my notes. So I
I
can give you the
recall something
location.
about that.
I can give you the location. I didn't bring that today because I came from
Oh,
work, so I didn't go
You're
home.
right, yep, I know.
And there was, and you were waiting for the replacement, so I just,
Yeah, they were one
Oh.
was at the landing and one was out by
Oh,
the.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you meant, we were waiting for 2 lights. I thought you meant there was 2 lights that didn't have bulbs. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm not sure I'm functioning properly, but yes, they did get replaced.
okay, that's all I needed to know. So the new light bulbs are saving us money.
They will save us. Probably, we hope.
So who's is presenting this?
I can talk about it.
Okay.
Way back when this started, somewhere along the line, all of our lights, we were still paying CMP too much money. So finally, CMP caught up with it and gave us a credit. So we have had a credit. We had a credit for quite a while. So therefore, it was really hard to judge exactly how much to put in this. Okay.
So how much are we receiving as a credit? Because I didn't know that.
Oh, it's all gone.
It's all gone?
Yes, there was a period of time where we had a credit and we paid the one portion of the bill, but we didn't pay the other portion of the bill. So bills were not really that high. So I found it really difficult to try to predict what our street light bill's gonna be, and then they had their increase, which made it more difficult. So to date, we spent $12.68, or for the year 21, we spent $12.68. We don't have any more credits, so I came up with 2,200, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't know. I had no history to judge anything on.
You have 39.25.
Well,
Sorry.
it's broken down.
Okay, broken down.
It's broken,
I'm just looking at the total.
yeah, no, it's broken down.
Okay.
So then you have maintenance and repairs. A service call is $240 to replace one light bulb
$240?
and $240 for travel fee. So I popped in $1,500 there and
Have we
hope
had a
that we
lot,
don't have to replace too many light bulbs.
have we had a lot go out?
We have had one that we have replaced. And we have one that is on sometimes and it's off sometimes. We're still trying to resolve that issue. And we have a fee for the software that controls the lights. And that fee is $225 to come up with $3,925.
Oh. It didn't cost me, didn't know that.
Well, is it?
Shocker.
No, but I didn't, usually it registers in my head what, but I didn't hear any of that.
I don't think we did until,
So the savings.
Until the bill came.
The original savings were totally based on, the pre-January 1st CMP supply charge, which CMP, of course, says we have nothing to do with that. It's somebody else's fault.
Questions concerning streetlights, Department 600? Okay, do I hear a motion? Bob,
I'll make a preliminary motion for the streetlights count for $3,925.
do I have a second? Sandra seconds. Motion's been made and second for Department 600 streetlights, preliminary budget number of $3,925. Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Camille. 7-0 passes. Back to you guys.
okay, questions?
Do you remember, getting a number from Kara that I rounded up on what Thomaston budgeted for maintenance? And I have like 2 or 3 times more lights than we do. And it was a big number, it was
And
like
it wasn't
$9,000, right?
It wasn't enough.
Their first year. And we had a email last year that you sent.
Yeah,
So
okay,
it'll be in my old
all
book.
right. Well, we'll see what $1,500 does. Move to, preliminary approval of, street fuel utilities and phone for $3,925.
Second.
Okay, so I'm just looking, so this looks good, but then when you take the streetlight loan payment on page 39 and add the 8,154 to the 3,925, we're actually not saving money as of yet.
No.
Can someone remind me how long that loan is for?
Last one there, until it's 5 years, starting in 2020.
Okay, so we gotta wait before we're gonna, okay.
We would approve the 5-year loan, $36,000.
Okay, well, that's kind of where I'm getting ahead of myself, but, okay.
So to answer that question you
We're
asked
not.
earlier,
No,
is we're losing about, what, $6,000 a year for the next 3 years. Then we'll start, maybe,
You were spending, we're not losing.
we're losing over what we're spending more. We're spending more than we were before we transitioned. And once we pay off the loan, if the maintenance stays like it is, then we will be seeing about a $3,000 benefit. But I think the maintenance.
But it's not 6,000, it's more like 3,000, 12,000 versus 9,000, right?
12,000 versus, 2020, I guess. was after.
Although
Yeah,
I'm sure,
yeah, you're right,
and
you're right.
CMP's probably gone up since then, so it's more like 12,000 versus
Yeah.
10,000.
it's an 83% increase. usually,
Yeah.
right?
But hopefully, I mean, I think the real key here is the maintenance.
Mhm.
Yeah, is that gonna,
Well,
So are they holding up to wind and cold temperatures? Because this winter was much colder than we've had in 4 years. So is that a something that's causing the maintenance issues, or is it something else?
Do we have maintenance issues? We've only
We
had
have.
one failure.
Just one. Well, we have a couple lights
We
that
had
go on and
some
off.
teething problems. and
Depends on
yeah.
when you look and see. If Bill checks them every day, he'll say, oh, light, can't remember the number, is off today, and we check it later and it's on.
And didn't we have, supposed to have a software capability to increase the light?
Yeah, I can do that.
intensity? Okay.
We know all that.
That's
But
what- that's what-
don't we also have to, if CMP changes the pole out, we have to pay for changing the light?
Yes.
Another.
Oh. But this is classic downside of with a mass technology request. If the mean time between failure of those lights, and I kind of have 5 years in my head, they're all gonna fail within one standard deviation on either side of that.
Yeah.
So that's 56 times 240 times 240. Or whatever proportion is gonna fail
Mhm.
within one standard deviation on either side of the mean.
I don't think it was our best move.
Well,
I do remember a couple of voices in the dark saying that this was not it. I think it was you.
I remember that.
I voted against it.
I voted for it. I was not
I
one of
did
those wise voices in the dark.
Well, I'm not sure it was wise.
Well, I did the math.
We'll see, we'll see, history will.
I followed the math.
Okay, all those, did we vote? All those in favor? Sorry.
I-
Okay, back to you.
Just information question. That, service call, is it 240 per call, whether they fix one light or 3 or 5? or
Yes,
what? Okay.
but you can't say, hey, I'm gonna wait till we got 4 or 5 lights out before I fix
No,
that one on the
but-
corner.
Just thought that we could, seeing our 5-year problem, or whatever it is, you know, all of them dying at once, we could just proactively pick a chunk of them per year and have a service call and come change them out before they die, so that they wouldn't all be reaching the end of their useful life at the same time.
You have one trip, but
One
10
trip, one
or 20
$240
but yeah.
trip, change out 10% a year, or 20% a year if you've got 5 years to do this. Just a thought.
No, it's a good thought.
Good stuff.
It is good thought. What about, isn't there a guarantee on these calls? So long,
Warranty.
warranty,
Yeah, but it's over.
it was only a year?
Yeah, well, for repair and replace. But the prediction is, and I forget exactly how long the projected, what is that?
Yeah, 'cause
You know,
lights, LEDs are supposed to last a long time.
Yeah.
All right,
back to you.
capital, page 44.
Would you like me to talk on this?
Whoever, you or the select board?
Definitely won't be me. Yeah.
Well, some of the phone system, our phone, as I mentioned before, if it rains,
We have a leak in them.
we have a terrible connection, you can't hear anything. But that being said, they do come and fix eventually. I'm not sure we're ready to do a different phone system at this time. When I started the budget, I thought we would be.
So are you withholding that request? Is that-
Yeah, I don't think we have enough information on the exact way to go right now. You got a thought, Walter?
Well, yeah, are we going to have fiber run in here when it's available?
Nice, isn't it?
Well, because I hypothesize without knowing, which I hate to do, that the big part of the problem with everybody, I mean, I have the same problem, has to do with these are unconditioned lines. The telephone lines are unconditioned. I mean, how old are they? And what motivation did, who was the Fairport, who was before Fairport?
Verizon.
Verizon?
Yeah, they just milk the infrastructure.
Way back, AT&T.
So if you bring fiber in, who's our internet provider? Spectrum? They go away. You'll make out on your internet, at least for the first year, and they automatically convert you to voice over IP for your phone lines.
So you're suggesting we leave it there and see what happens?
Yeah,
Okay.
if they're right that they're gonna have us, South Thomaston, up and running in September, by September.
Yep.
I don't see a problem. I see waiting is the good thing to do.
Okay, we'll see.
So you're saying leave the 27,
Yeah.
79.
The EMS.
Yeah, because we're not a customer, so we're gonna have to pull cable or fiber. We have to pay for the installation.
Well, doesn't the consolidated phone line runs into the building, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I thought
The phone system is only inside the building, right?
Right, it's,
Because what happens is every time, correct me if I'm wrong, every time we got a problem, you have to call, you call Consolidated and they say, we won't look at it until you call your phone company.
right.
Yeah,
They come look at it and they say, it's an external problem.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for 17 years,
yeah,
43 times a year. And finally, Phil got mad at him and said, you make us do this every time. And it's always a consolidated problem, so. So I think the problem is out on from the pole to the building, isn't it? Not,
yes, somewhere between.
which
all
is
the
a
buildings.
consolidated wire. But so you're saying, since we have service from the poles and building, that they will,
Yeah, we'll have to check on that because the question is whether they count you as, when they're gonna pull the fiber, whether they count you as a customer if you're just a phone customer or if you're a DSL customer.
Right.
Because the fact is that their snail mail DSL is more expensive than what their 1 gigabyte fiber is gonna be, which is why it's so exciting to people like me. So, but regardless, we ought to take a serious look at bringing that fiber in here and converting the phone system. And you get rid of you end up with a single vendor with throat to choke.
Okay, well, we'll leave that right there.
Okay.
Thank you all.
And taking it out doesn't help us, because that's, all three of those items are for sure for the surplus, so.
Because
It
there's no
doesn't change
actual.
the 83 either.
Jeff, you noticed I didn't do any surplus lines.
Oh, I know,
Not
I
all
know.
to you.
No, I'm up to 109.
Okay, any questions?
sorry, I'll trade yours.
All right.
I'm losing track of who's
It's
on.
okay, it's just that it's late. Are there any questions for the select board or Terry concerning Department 702 capital expense total being 15,743, leaving as is? Any questions? Bob?
So, talking about not doing the phone system, so you're just saying, Terry, take the 2779 out?
No, we decided not to do that.
Keep it in there in case that was their discussion.
Oh, so leave it there.
Leave it there, depending on what happens with the fiber optics and what they have to do at the end of the year.
I got you.
Didn't make sense. Any other questions? All right,
So we're gonna leave it there, but not plan to do anything.
No, it probably, it will cost to convert the equipment here to match up to the fiber optic
This fall.
this fall.
Right.
Right, so yes. leave it.
and the other side of the coin is there's no actuals, so Jeff will have surplus to go and fund that.
He's already written it down.
Yes, on all three items.
I'm
Do
up
I
to
hear-
109, so.
Do I hear a motion? Motion, I move to Linda.
Yeah, except the capital expense
Okay,
of would it go 15,743?
Yes. All right, motion's been made to preliminary accept capital expense Department 702 at 15,743. Do I have a second? Bob seconds it. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there further discussion? All right, all in favor for total capital expense of 15,743? It passes 7-0. Back to you.
Okay, I have a question. Jerry, on line 1359, it says EMS PC.
Yep.
But then in the note, it says new PC for ambulance director and assessor.
Oh, that's an old note. That's what we did last year.
Okay,
I know, after you told me to make sure I checked all those notes, I missed that one.
no, that's all right. I didn't tell you to, I asked you to. Okay, so this is just for who then?
It's for the ambulance room where
Okay,
they send their other stuff through.
because it looks like we got a new one for the director last year.
Yes, Amy's and the assessors are up in their office.
Okay, fine, so I'm just gonna strike that out, okay. And then, talk to me like I'm a 7-year-old. Explain to me again why we need to replace the server? And didn't we just do that, or did we replace the modem or something?
No, we replaced the router.
We replaced the router. Okay, so now we're gonna replace the server.
Yes.
And we gotta replace that because,
It's on our rotation
It's
list
on
of
the rotation.
replacing. Gus really strongly suggested replacing it. He said he probably could go another year with what's the word you used, Walter? The updates for. I can't
The
remember.
operating system
Yeah,
update.
operating system. You could probably go another year, but this is our,
It's the end
it's
drive.
our life.
Yeah.
yeah.
If it's
So,
broken,
so the
it's
issue
okay.
is then it's not really so much of a physical problem, it's an obsolescence in terms of software issues. Or both.
So,
Or both? Okay,
The-
so that's not something I can put a note next to saying we could cut this if we had to,
well,
okay.
yeah, we could.
Well, it comes crashing down.
Yeah. And if Jeff hadn't spent all the surplus, then we could go up.
No, I got that surplus, that's surplus.
Okay,
It's clearly. surplus.
other questions from other board members? Pardon my
Because it's a
ignorance.
one-time non-repeater, right?
Correct.
All right, other questions from Jeff, Walter? We good to go?
No, I move preliminary approval of capital expense of 15,743. And especially so that we can protect the end drive.
Second.
Yeah, I just, as a final note, I just remember Karen Grierson walking around with her computer, which was a stubby pencil about that long. So I have choked when I see $11,000. So you can buy a lot of stubby pencils. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Do I have a motion for adjournment to the budget committee?
So moved.
Second. Budget committee is adjourned at 9:06.
and before we adjourn, I just wanted an unrelated thing, just real quickly, don't want to really talk about it tonight, but you did see, I think, the exchange of emails between Kristen and Andrew, and we may need to adjust the agenda sometime next week to maybe add on at the end of one of these meetings, a brief discussion in response to Christian's question.
Maybe I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Oh, she sent I'm sure that, she sent around a draft of a letter
Yeah.
that would be a precursor to actually the formal easement, and said, would the board
Oh, yes.
be in favor of that? And she sent it to me, and I felt like, I can't say what the board's in favor of. I mean, I'm just me. So,
I do not have a problem.
but, well, okay, if we want to deal with it right now, we can. deal with it
Either
right
that or
now.
Monday, because we're gonna be in session on Monday
Yeah, we
anyway.
can just put it on next year. That'd be clean.
Okay, that'd be better. That's okay. Okay, so I just want you to be
I was,
prepared
what do
that
you want to do?
We want to review and for approval, Kristen's letter, to get around the easement problem.
Yeah. Which may or may not be necessary, but if you authorize me ahead of time to say, okay, do it, then that'll take care of that. Thank you.
So will you adjusted your?
I think we can just adjust it that
Agenda
way.
then?
Yeah. I just want to let them know that they may have to stay around for 10 minutes after.
I didn't open up the letter, but. Okay, I did that.
I do have that email on the maintenance on the lights for Thomaston. They budgeted 4,200 for streetlight maintenance. They ended up exceeding that by 800, so they spent about 5,000.
You get a lot of kids shooting them out or what?
They said that we had a real difficult time dealing with real term and had doing a lot of repair work. We had a little over 200 lights in Thomaston. I'm not sure how many South Thomaston has, but maybe you only have half. We
We
have
got about
54. Yeah. They had 9 lights that had blown fuses, and real time said that was due to quality issues from CMP. They also had 11 faulty smart nodes. And so that was their other issue. And then we had, but they've seen savings in electricity by switching to LED.
As have we.
Yep, so that's what they have.
So we're not that.
Did you guys make a motion?
Oh, is there a motion to adjourn? Further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
So Bob, that was you that waved to me when I was out there with my sledgehammer?
I said, so, you got a new job. Unpaid.
I don't even get mileage.
Well, I've always heard selectmen wear many hats. Some of them are hats.
I don't know about this health officer.
One of the few. Are we off recording? Legal job.